Every woman thinks she knows what fear looks like, until she meets it twice in one night. Once in the eyes of the man who swore he owned her, and once in the gaze of the stranger who promised he could save her. Tonight, Bella Romano would discover that sometimes the most dangerous choice isn't running from the devil you know, it's trusting the one you don't. But when your daughter's life hangs in the balance and your ex-husband's threats aren't empty anymore, salvation doesn't knock politely. It walks through the door in an expensive suit, sees every bruise you've hidden, and asks one simple question. Do you want to live? If you want to see how far Bella's story goes, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see where this journey takes us. Now, let's begin. The chandelier overhead cost more than Bella Romano had earned in the last 6 months. She knew this because she'd cleaned houses like this one, scrubbed marble floors on her hands and knees while women in silk dresses walked past without seeing her. Tonight she wore a borrowed dress that didn't quite fit, stood in heels that pinched her feet, and clutched a glass of champagne she hadn't taken a single sip from. She didn't belong here. The realization wasn't new. What was new was the fresh bruise on her ribs, carefully hidden beneath the empire waist of the navy dress. What was new was the text message that had vibrated her phone 20 minutes ago, the one that made her hands shake so badly she'd nearly dropped her glass. I know where you are. I know what you're wearing. Wave to the camera, baby. Bella's eyes had darted to every corner of the ballroom after that, searching for security cameras, for Marcus's face in the crowd, for any sign that he'd made good on his threat. The party swirled around her, lawyers and businessmen, their wives draped in jewelry that could pay her rent for a year. Someone laughed too loudly near the bar. A string quartet played something classical and forgettable. She needed to leave. You look like you're about to bolt. The voice came from directly behind her, low, controlled, with an edge of amusement that didn't quite mask something sharper underneath. Bella spun around too quickly, champagne sloshing dangerously close to the rim of her glass. The man standing there didn't step back. He should have. Most people instinctively created distance when someone invaded their space, but he stood perfectly still, watching her with eyes so dark they looked black in the dim lighting. I'm sorry, Bella managed. The exit, he said, gesturing with the tumbler of whiskey in his hand. You've looked at it 12 times in the last 10 minutes. Either you're planning to run, or you're waiting for someone who's making you nervous. Bella's throat tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. No? One corner of his mouth lifted, but it wasn't quite a smile. My mistake. He should have walked away then. Should have returned to whatever conversation she'd pulled him from, dismissed her as another uncomfortable party guest counting down the minutes until they could leave. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Dante Moretti, he said, not offering his hand. And you are? Leaving, Bella said quickly. I was just leaving. Running, he corrected. There's a difference. The accuracy of that statement hit her like a slap. Bella felt heat rise in her cheeks, a combination of embarrassment and something dangerously close to anger. I don't need to explain myself to you. True. Dante took a slow sip of his whiskey, never breaking eye contact. But whoever you're running from isn't here. I've been watching this room all night, and the only person who's been watching you is me. That should have been creepy. Should have sent her running toward the exit she'd been eyeing. Instead, something in the certainty of his voice made her pause. Why? She asked. Why what? Why were you watching me? Dante's expression didn't change. Because you're terrified, and you're trying very hard not to show it, and because I recognize that look. Bella's grip tightened on her glass. You don't know anything about me. I know you haven't taken a single sip of that champagne. I know you've positioned yourself with your back to the wall and a clear line of sight to both exits. I know someone hurt you recently. You're favoring your left side, protecting your ribs. His voice dropped lower. And I know whoever sent you that text message 20 minutes ago is the reason you're about to run out of here without your coat. The champagne flute slipped from Bella's fingers. It seemed to fall in slow motion, crystal tumbling end over end before it shattered against the marble floor. The sound cut through the ambient noise of the party like a gunshot. Conversations stuttered, heads turned. Bella didn't notice. She was staring at Dante Moretti, her heart hammering against her ribs, the bruised ones that he somehow knew about, that he'd seen through her careful positioning and borrowed dress. How did you? It's what I do, Dante interrupted quietly. He'd already moved, stepping between her and the growing audience of curious partygoers. His body blocked her from view, gave her a moment to collect herself while a server hurried over with a towel and dustpan. I notice things other people miss. That's not normal, Bella whispered. No, he agreed. It's not. The server cleaned up the broken glass with practiced efficiency, murmuring reassurances that it happened all the time. Not to worry. Dante waited until the man had moved away before speaking again. The text message, he said. What did it say? Bella's hand moved instinctively to her clutch, where her phone sat silent and threatening. Nothing. It was nothing. If it was nothing, you wouldn't look like you're about to crawl out of your skin. Dante's tone remained even, but there was steel underneath it now. Someone threatened you, someone who knows you're here. I really need to go. Where? The question was blunt. Back to wherever he's waiting? Because that's what men like that do. They send the threat, wait for you to panic, and then they're there when you try to run. Men like that. The phrase hung between them, laden with implications that made Bella's stomach turn. You don't know what kind of man he is. Then tell me. Why would I do that? Because, Dante said, his voice dropping to something that was almost gentle. In about 30 seconds, you're going to walk out of here alone, and whatever happens next is going to happen without anyone who can help you. Or you can talk to me for 5 minutes, and we can figure out if there's another option. Bella laughed, but it came out sharp and bitter. You're a stranger at a party. What are you going to do? More than you think. Dante gestured toward a door partially hidden behind a large potted plant. There's a private study through there. We can talk without an audience. Every instinct Bella had screamed at her to run. Don't go into a private room with a strange man. Don't trust someone just because they notice things about you. Don't confuse observation with care. But her phone buzzed again in her clutch, and she didn't need to look at it to know what Marcus had sent. Another threat. Another reminder that he could find her anywhere, that she'd never be safe, that Lily... 5 minutes, she heard herself say. Dante nodded once and started toward the hidden door. Bella followed, aware of the eyes tracking their movement, the whispers that would start as soon as they disappeared. She didn't care. Marcus already knew where she was. Her reputation was the least of her problems. The study was exactly what she'd expected. Dark wood paneling, leather furniture, books that looked expensive and unread. Dante closed the door behind them, but didn't lock it. Didn't move closer to her, just walked to a small bar cart and refilled his whiskey. Do you want something? He asked. I want to know why you're doing this. Doing what? Pretending to care about a stranger's problems. Dante took a drink before answering. Who said I'm pretending? People don't just... Bella stopped, frustrated. People don't do this. They don't notice someone's afraid and decide to help. They ignore it. They walk away. Most people, Dante agreed, but I'm not most people. Clearly, Bella wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the stuffy warmth of the room. So what are you, a lawyer? A cop? Neither. Then what gives you the right to ask me about my private life? Nothing, Dante said simply. You don't owe me any explanations. You can walk out of here right now and I won't stop you. But before you do, take a look at this. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, and turned the screen toward her. Bella stepped closer despite herself, squinting at the image displayed there. It was a surveillance photo, grainy, taken from a distance. It showed a man leaning against a car outside what looked like an apartment building. Even with the poor quality, Bella recognized him instantly. Marcus. Where did you get this? She whispered. Outside your building. About 45 minutes ago. Dante pocketed his phone. He's not inside the party, but he's definitely waiting for you to leave. The room tilted. Bella reached out blindly, found the arm of a leather chair, and gripped it hard enough that her knuckles went white. You've been following me? I've been protecting you, Dante corrected. There's a difference. That's not... You can't just... The words tangled in her throat. Why would you do that? Because 3 days ago, I saw you at a coffee shop on Westwood with a little girl. Your daughter, I assume. She has your eyes. Dante's expression didn't change, but something in his voice softened fractionally. "And I saw the bruise on your jaw that you'd tried to cover with makeup. And I saw the way you checked over your shoulder every 30 seconds, like you were waiting for someone to find you." Bella felt tears burning behind her eyes and blinked them back furiously. "So you decided to stalk me?" "I decided to watch," Dante said, "to see if my instincts were right. And when I saw you walk into this party tonight looking like prey in a room full of predators, I knew they were." "Your instincts," Bella repeated. "About what?" "That you're in danger. That whoever you're running from isn't going to stop, and that you need help whether you want to admit it or not." The tears won. Bella felt them slide down her cheeks and didn't bother wiping them away. "You don't know anything about my situation." "Then tell me." "Why?" she demanded. "So you can feel good about yourself? So you can play hero for a night and then forget about me?" "No." Dante set his glass down with deliberate care. "So I can help you." "Nobody helps for free." "You're right," he agreed. "There's always a cost. But right now, the only thing I want from you is the truth. Who is he? What does he want? And what's it going to take to make sure you and your daughter are safe?" Bella stared at this stranger, this man who'd watched her in a coffee shop, who'd followed her to a party, who'd somehow gotten surveillance photos of Marcus outside her apartment. Everything about this was wrong, dangerous, the kind of situation that should send her running in the opposite direction. But Marcus was outside her building. Marcus, who'd put his hands around her throat last month and squeezed until her vision went dark. Marcus, who told her that if she ever tried to leave him, he'd make sure she never saw Lily again. Marcus, who'd spent 2 years in prison for assault and walked out more violent than when he went in. And Dante Moretti, whoever he was, had noticed, had cared enough to follow, had photos proving that her worst fear was waiting right outside her front door. "His name is Marcus Vance," Bella said quietly. "He's my ex-husband, and if I go home tonight, there's a very good chance I won't see tomorrow." Dante's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. A subtle tightening, a readiness. "Tell me everything." So she did. The words came slowly at first, then faster, spilling out like water from a broken dam. She told him about meeting Marcus when she was 22, about how charming he'd been in the beginning, how he'd made her feel special and protected. She told him about the first time he'd hit her, 6 months after their wedding, and how he'd cried and apologized and sworn it would never happen again. It happened again, and again, and again. She told him about getting pregnant with Lily, about the brief period when Marcus had seemed almost normal, almost like the man she'd married, about how that had shattered when Lily was 6 months old and wouldn't stop crying, and Marcus had... Bella's voice broke. Dante waited, didn't push, just listened with that same intense focus he'd had in the ballroom. She told him about the arrest. Marcus had been running drugs for a dealer on the South Side, got caught in a sting operation, and went away for 2 years. 2 years when Bella had finally been able to breathe. 2 years when she'd filed for divorce, gotten a protection order, moved 3 times to places Marcus wouldn't know about. 2 years that ended 3 weeks ago when he got out on parole. "He found us on the first day," Bella whispered. "I don't know how. I'd been so careful. New apartment, new phone number, Lily in a different school. But he was there when I came home from work, just sitting on the front steps like he'd never left." "What did he do?" Dante asked. "Nothing. That's what made it worse. He just smiled and said he'd missed us. Said he wanted to see his daughter. Said he'd changed, gotten sober, found religion." Bella's hands clenched into fists. "I told him no. Told him the protection order was still active and he needed to leave. He just kept smiling and said orders were just paper. That family was forever." "And the bruises?" "He came back 5 days ago. Let himself into the apartment somehow. I still don't know how. I woke up at 3 in the morning and he was standing in Lily's room, just watching her sleep." Bella's voice shook. "I confronted him. He didn't like that." Dante's jaw tightened fractionally. "Where's Lily now?" "With my neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She's 73 and doesn't speak much English, but she loves Lily and she doesn't ask questions when I need someone to watch her last minute." Bella checked her phone reflexively. No new messages from Mrs. Chen, which meant Lily was still safe. Still asleep in the apartment next door while her mother stood in a stranger's study and confessed to being a failure. "The text you got tonight," Dante said. "What exactly did it say?" Bella pulled out her phone with trembling hands and showed him. The message glowed on the screen. "I know where you are. I know what you're wearing. Wave to the camera, baby. Lily looks so peaceful when she sleeps. Shame if something happened to ruin that. Dante read it twice, his expression unreadable. Then he took the phone from her hands, gently, like he was handling something fragile, and did something to it. When he handed it back, the message was gone. "What did you just do?" Bella asked. "Backed it up to a secure server and deleted it from your phone. If Marcus is monitoring your messages, he'll see that you read it, but he won't know I have a copy now." Dante pulled out his own phone. "What's your address?" "Why?" "Because I'm sending someone to watch your building, to make sure Marcus doesn't go anywhere near that apartment while we figure out our next move." "Our next move," Bella repeated. "There is no hour. I don't even know you. You know I noticed you were in danger when nobody else did. You know I cared enough to follow up. You know I have resources you don't." Dante's gaze was steady, unflinching. "And you know that if you walk out of here alone, Marcus is going to be waiting. So what am I supposed to do? Trust you because you have a nice suit and talk like you're in control?" "No," Dante said. "Trust me, because I'm the only option you have right now that doesn't end with you or your daughter getting hurt." The bluntness of it should have offended her, should have made her defensive. Instead, it cut through all the panic and fear and landed somewhere close to truth. "What do you want in return?" Bella asked quietly. "I told you, the truth. That's all. People don't help for nothing. Some people do." Dante pocketed his phone. "But if you need a transactional reason, here it is. I don't like men who hurt women. I don't like men who threaten children. And I especially don't like men who think they can do both and get away with it because their victim is too scared or too alone to fight back." "That's not a reason," Bella said. "That's a principle. Maybe." Dante moved toward the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "The question is, are you willing to bet your daughter's life that I'm lying about it?" Bella closed her eyes, opened them, made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. "Tell me what to do," she whispered. Dante nodded once, like he'd expected nothing less. "First, you're not going home tonight. Neither is Lily. I have a place, safe, secure, somewhere Marcus won't find you. We'll bring her there along with your neighbor if necessary. Mrs. Chen won't. I'll handle Mrs. Chen. Second, you're going to write down everything you know about Marcus. Where he's staying, who he associates with, what his patterns are. Every detail, no matter how small." "Why?" "Because if we're going to make sure he never threatens you again, I need to know exactly who we're dealing with." Dante opened the door, glanced out into the hallway to make sure it was clear. "And third, you're going to do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you, without arguing or second-guessing. Can you do that?" Bella thought about Lily, asleep and innocent and unaware that her father was a monster. Thought about Marcus's hands around her throat, his voice in her ear promising that she'd never escape him. Thought about the alternative to trusting this dangerous, intense stranger who'd somehow seen through every wall she'd built. "Yes," she said, "I can do that." "Good." Dante pulled out his phone again, typed rapidly. "My car is out front. Black Mercedes, license plate ends in 47. The driver's name is Vincent. He'll take you to get Lily and Mrs. Chen and bring you to the safe house. I'll meet you there in an hour." "Where are you going?" "To make sure Marcus doesn't follow." Dante's smile was cold, sharp-edged. "And to have a conversation with the host of this party about his security cameras. Someone's been monitoring them, and I want to know who gave Marcus access." Bella felt a chill run down her spine. "You think someone here helped him? I think men like Marcus don't get surveillance access to private parties without inside help, which means someone at this party is either working with him or owes him a favor." Dante met her eyes. "Don't worry, I'll find out which." He said it with such casual certainty that Bella believed him. This man, whoever he really was, didn't make empty promises, didn't offer help he couldn't deliver. "Vincent will keep you safe," Dante continued. "But Bella, if Marcus approaches the car, if anything feels wrong, you call this number immediately." He handed her a business card. Plain white, just a phone number embossed in black. No name, no company. Bella tucked it into her clutch next to her useless phone and protection order that Marcus had called just paper. "Thank you," she said, because what else was there to say? Dante shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. We haven't gotten you out of this. We've just bought you some time. Time is more than I had an hour ago." "Then let's make sure we use it well." Dante opened the door wider, gestured for her to go first. The driver is waiting. Don't stop. Don't look back. Don't talk to anyone on your way out. Just walk straight to the car and get in. Bella nodded and stepped past him into the hallway. The party noise washed over her again. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. Normal sounds from a normal world that she'd stopped being part of the moment Marcus had found her again. She walked through the ballroom with her head up and her shoulders back, ignoring the curious glances, the whispered speculation. At the front entrance, a valet opened the door and cold night air hit her face. The black Mercedes was exactly where Dante had said it would be, engine running, a man in a dark suit standing beside the rear door. "Ms. Romano," he said quietly. "I'm Vincent, please." He opened the door. Bella slid into the leather interior and let herself take one full breath, then another. By the time Vincent closed the door and moved around to the driver's seat, Bella had her phone out and was texting Mrs. Chen. The old woman wouldn't understand most of it, but she'd understand the important part. "Bring Lily. We're leaving. Now." "The address, Ms. Romano?" Vincent asked from the front seat. Bella gave it to him. As the car pulled away from the curb, she twisted around to look back at the mansion, at the golden light spilling from its windows, at the world she'd tried so hard to touch for just one night. Dante Moretti stood in the doorway, watching the car leave. Even from this distance, even in the darkness, Bella could feel the weight of his gaze. Then Vincent turned a corner and the mansion disappeared, and Bella was left alone with her thoughts and her fear and the fragile, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd made the right choice. Her phone buzzed. Not Mrs. Chen. "Marcus. You left early. That's rude. Don't worry, baby. We'll talk soon. You, me, and our little girl. Just like a family should." Bella deleted the message with shaking hands and stared out at the dark street sliding past. Somewhere out there, Marcus was planning his next move. Somewhere behind her, Dante Moretti was planning his. And somewhere ahead, in a safe house she'd never seen with a man she'd met an hour ago, Bella Romano was about to discover that sometimes the only way to escape one dangerous man was to trust another. She just hoped she'd live long enough to figure out which one was which. The safe house wasn't what Bella had expected. She'd imagined something industrial, concrete walls, security cameras, the kind of sterile environment that screamed hiding place. Instead, Vincent pulled up to a quiet brownstone in a neighborhood that looked almost suburban. Trees lined the street. Porch lights glowed warm and welcoming. A cat sat on a nearby fence, watching the car with lazy indifference. "This is it?" Bella asked. "This is it," Vincent confirmed. He got out, opened her door, and scanned the street with practiced efficiency before nodding. "All clear. Let's get you inside." Mrs. Chen was already on the front steps, Lily asleep in her arms. The old woman's expression was worried but calm, and she handed Lily over without a word of protest when Bella reached for her. "Thank you," Bella whispered. "Thank you so much." Mrs. Chen patted her arm and said something in Cantonese that Bella didn't understand but felt in her bones. "Stay safe. Be careful. Protect that baby." Vincent unlocked the door and ushered them inside. The interior was just as unexpected as the exterior. Hardwood floors, comfortable furniture, a kitchen that looked actually lived in. No bars on the windows, no obvious security measures. "Mr. Moretti will be here within the hour," Vincent said. "Until then, I'll be right outside. Don't open the door for anyone except him. Understood?" Bella nodded, too tired to do anything else. Vincent left, and the lock clicked into place behind him with a sound that should have been comforting, but somehow wasn't. Mrs. Chen settled onto the couch with a grateful sigh. Bella carried Lily upstairs. Vincent had pointed to a bedroom, already made up with fresh sheets, and laid her daughter down carefully. Lily didn't wake, just curled onto her side and kept dreaming whatever innocent dreams 4-year-olds had. Bella stood there for a long moment, watching her chest rise and fall. This was what mattered. This was what she'd do anything to protect. Downstairs, she found Mrs. Chen dozing on the couch. Bella covered her with a blanket and walked to the window, peering out through the curtains. Vincent stood by the car, phone to his ear, completely still in the darkness. This was real. This was happening. She was in a stranger's safe house with her daughter and elderly neighbor, trusting a man she'd met 2 hours ago to protect them from her ex-husband. The absurdity of it should have sent her into hysterics. Instead, she just felt numb, Headlights swept across the street. Bella tensed, but it was just another black car, this one pulling up behind Vincent's Mercedes. The driver's door opened and Dante Moretti stepped out, moving with the same controlled grace he'd had at the party. Vincent met him on the sidewalk. They spoke briefly, too quiet for Bella to hear through the window. Then Dante looked up at the house, directly at the window where she stood. Bella didn't move, didn't step back. Just let him see her there, outlined in the faint light from the living room. Dante said something else to Vincent, then walked toward the front door. Bella heard his footsteps on the porch, the sound of a key in the lock. The door opened and he stepped inside, bringing cold air and the faint scent of expensive cologne with him. "Everything okay?" he asked quietly. "Define okay," Bella said. Dante's mouth quirked slightly. "Fair point. Is Lily settled? Asleep upstairs. Mrs. Chen too, basically." Bella wrapped her arms around herself. "What happened at the party?" "The security system was compromised. Someone gave Marcus remote access to the cameras 3 days ago." Dante locked the door behind him, engaged 2 additional deadbolts that Bella hadn't even noticed. "The host is unhappy. He's dealing with it." "Dealing with it how?" "In ways that don't concern you." Dante moved past her into the living room, checked the windows, drew the curtains more securely. "What matters is that Marcus doesn't have eyes on you anymore. He'll find another way. Probably. Which is why we're not staying here long term." Dante finally stopped moving and looked at her directly. "Tomorrow, we're moving you somewhere more permanent, somewhere he definitely can't find." "Where?" "A property I own upstate. Completely off-grid, no digital footprint. You'll be safe there while we figure out the permanent solution." "Permanent solution?" Bella repeated. "You mean like witness protection?" "I mean like making sure Marcus Vance is never a threat to you again." Dante's voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "There are legal ways to do that, and other ways." The implication hung heavy in the air between them. Bella knew she should be horrified, should ask what he meant by other ways, should establish boundaries around whatever this arrangement was becoming. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Who are you? Really?" Dante considered her for a long moment. "Someone who helps people when the system fails them." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting tonight." He moved toward the kitchen, and Bella heard the sound of running water, the clink of glasses. He returned with 2 tumblers, one of which he held out to her. "Whiskey. You look like you need it." Bella took the glass but didn't drink. "I don't even like whiskey." "You don't have to like it. You just have to get through the next few hours without falling apart." Dante raised his own glass in a mockery of a toast. "To surviving." "To surviving?" Bella echoed and took a sip. It burned going down, sharp and peaty and unpleasant. She took another sip anyway. Dante was right. She needed something to get through this, and whiskey was as good as anything. They stood there in the dim living room, drinking in silence while Mrs. Chen snored softly on the couch. Outside, Vincent paced the perimeter like a sentry. Upstairs, Lily dreamed on, innocent and safe for at least one more night. And somewhere in the city, Marcus Vance was planning his next move. But for now, for just this moment, Bella let herself breathe. Let herself believe that maybe, impossibly, she'd found someone who could actually help her, even if that someone was the most dangerous man she'd ever met. The whiskey had settled into a dull warmth in Bella's stomach by the time Dante finally spoke again. "You should get some sleep," he said, setting his empty glass on the coffee table. "We leave at 6. 6 in the morning?" Bella glanced at her phone. It was nearly 2. "That's 4 hours from now." "Then you better hurry." Bella wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her bones like an undertow. She nodded and started toward the stairs, then paused, with her hand on the banister. "Where will you be?" "Here, making sure nobody comes through that door who shouldn't." Dante had already pulled out his phone, his attention shifting to the screen. "Vincent's outside. I'm inside. You're covered. You're not going to sleep?" "I don't need much." It wasn't really an answer, but Bella was too tired to push. She climbed the stairs on legs that felt like lead and checked on Lily one more time before collapsing onto the bed in the second bedroom. She didn't bother changing out of the borrowed dress, just kicked off the painful heels and pulled the blanket over herself. Sleep should have been impossible. Her mind should have been racing with everything that had happened, every decision she'd made, every risk she'd taken. Instead, she dropped into unconsciousness like a stone into deep water. And when she opened her eyes again, gray morning light was seeping through the curtains. Someone was knocking softly on the door. "Ms. Romano?" Vincent's voice, carefully neutral. "Mr. Moretti asked me to wake you. We need to leave in 20 minutes. Bella sat up, disoriented and still wearing last night's dress. Her mouth tasted like whiskey and regret. "I'll be right down." She found clean clothes laid out on the chair by the window. Jeans, a sweater, practical shoes, and exactly her size. She didn't want to think about how Dante had known her measurements, so she didn't. Just changed quickly and went to wake Lily. Her daughter was already awake, sitting up in bed with wide, confused eyes. "Mama, where are we?" "Somewhere safe, baby." Bella sat on the edge of the bed and smoothed Lily's dark hair back from her face. "We're going on a little trip today. Won't that be fun?" "Is Daddy coming?" The question hit Bella like a fist to the gut. "No, sweetie. Just you and me and Mrs. Chen." "And the man?" "What man?" "The tall man. He came in last night and looked at me sleeping." Lily's voice was matter-of-fact, the way children's voices were about things that should be terrifying. "He didn't say anything, just looked. Then he left." Bella's hand stilled in her daughter's hair. Dante had been in this room, had stood over Lily's bed while she slept. She didn't know if that should make her feel safer or more afraid. "That's Mr. Moretti," Bella said carefully. "He's helping us." "Why?" "Because sometimes people need help, and he's someone who knows how to give it." Lily considered this with the seriousness of a 4-year-old philosopher. "Is he nice?" "I think so. I hope so." Bella kissed her daughter's forehead. "Come on, let's get you dressed." Downstairs, Mrs. Chen was already awake and eating toast in the kitchen. Dante stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian that Bella couldn't follow. He glanced up when she entered, nodded once, and ended the call. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. Bella's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Marcus filed a petition with family court this morning. Emergency custody hearing, claiming you're an unfit mother who's kidnapped his daughter." Dante's expression was unreadable. "It's bullshit, obviously, but it means we can't just disappear upstate. Not yet. We need to deal with this legally, or he'll have the police looking for you." "He can't just—" Bella's voice cracked. "He was arrested for assault. He's a convicted felon on parole. How is he allowed to file for custody? Because he has rights as a biological father, and because the system is slow and stupid and doesn't care that he's dangerous." Dante pocketed his phone. "But it also means we have an opportunity." "What opportunity?" "If he's willing to go to court, it means he thinks he can win, which means he's not planning to just grab Lily off the street. Too messy, too risky. He wants this to look legitimate." Dante moved to the kitchen table and pulled out a chair. "Sit. We need to talk strategy." Bella sat, her mind spinning. Mrs. Chen offered her toast, but she waved it away. Lily appeared at the bottom of the stairs, dressed in the clothes Bella had laid out the night before, and immediately went to Mrs. Chen's side. "When's the hearing?" Bella asked. 3 days from now, Tuesday at 10. Dante sat across from her, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. "We need a lawyer, a good one. Someone who specializes in domestic violence cases and custody battles." "I can't afford a good lawyer." "I can." Bella stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because Marcus needs to lose. Decisively. And you're not going to beat him with a public defender who has 300 other cases." Dante's tone was flat, businesslike. "I know someone. Her name is Rachel Chen. No relation to your neighbor. She's expensive, she's ruthless, and she doesn't lose." "And what do you get out of this?" "I told you last night, I don't like men who hurt women and children." Dante's gaze didn't waver. "That's reason enough. Nobody does this for free." "I'm not doing it for free. I'm doing it because it needs to be done." He stood, moved to the coffee maker, and poured himself a cup without asking if she wanted any. "Rachel will meet us at her office in 2 hours. She'll need to hear everything. Every incident, every threat, every piece of evidence you have that Marcus is dangerous." "What if it's not enough?" "It will be. Marcus made a mistake by going through the courts. It creates a paper trail, creates accountability. We're going to use that against him. Bella wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this stranger who'd appeared in her life less than 12 hours ago actually had a plan that would work. But trust was a luxury she'd learned not to afford. "What happens after the hearing?" she asked quietly. "If we win, Marcus's petition gets denied and his parole officer gets a full report about his harassment. If we're lucky, he violates parole and goes back to prison." Dante took a sip of coffee. "If we lose, we go to Plan B." "What's Plan B?" "You don't want to know." The certainty in his voice sent a chill down Bella's spine. She thought about the way he'd said other ways last night, the implication that legal channels weren't his only option. She thought about the surveillance photo he'd somehow obtained, the safe house he owned, the resources he clearly had access to. "Who are you really?" she asked again. "Someone who gets things done." Dante set his cup down. "That's all that matters right now." Before Bella could respond, Vincent appeared in the doorway. "Car's ready, boss? Rachel's expecting you at 9. "Good. Let's move." Dante looked at Bella. "Bring Lily. Rachel will want to meet her." "Why?" "Because if this goes to court, the judge might want to talk to her. Rachel needs to prepare for that possibility." The thought of Lily being questioned by a judge, being forced to talk about her father in front of strangers, made Bella feel physically ill. But she nodded and stood, because what else could she do? The drive to Rachel Chen's office took 40 minutes through morning traffic that Vincent navigated with practiced ease. Lily sat quietly between Bella and Mrs. Chen, playing with a stuffed rabbit that had mysteriously appeared in her backpack. Dante sat in the front passenger seat making calls in that same rapid Italian, his voice low and intense. Rachel's office was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel, and the kind of expensive minimalism that spoke of success. Her assistant, a young man with perfect posture and a tablet instead of a notebook, ushered them into a conference room with a view that stretched across the entire city. Rachel herself appeared 5 minutes later. She was younger than Bella had expected, maybe 40, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair pulled into a severe bun. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Bella's monthly rent, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never lost a fight she cared about winning. "Ms. Romano," Rachel extended her hand. Her grip was firm, professional. "Dante's told me about your situation. I'm very sorry you're going through this." "Thank you," Bella managed. Rachel turned to Lily, who was hiding behind Bella's legs. "And you must be Lily. I have a daughter about your age. Her name's Emma. Do you like to draw?" Lily peeked out, nodded shyly. "My assistant has coloring books in the other room. Would you like to color while I talk to your mom?" Rachel's smile was genuine, warm in a way her professional demeanor hadn't been. "Mrs. Chen can go with you to make sure you're okay." Lily looked at Bella for permission. Bella wanted to say no, wanted to keep her daughter close, but she nodded. Mrs. Chen took Lily's hand and followed the assistant out, leaving Bella alone with Rachel and Dante. "Sit," Rachel said, gesturing to the conference table. "We don't have much time, so I'm going to be direct. Dante says your ex-husband is dangerous. I need you to prove it." Bella sat. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Marcus Vance's lawyer is going to paint you as a vindictive ex-wife who's using your daughter as a weapon. They're going to say you're alienating Lily from her father, that you're unstable, that you're denying him his parental rights." Rachel pulled out a legal pad and a pen. "We need to prove that everything you've done has been to protect your daughter from a credible threat. So start from the beginning. First time he hit you. Don't leave anything out." It was harder the second time. Harder to say the words with Rachel's sharp eyes on her. Harder to maintain composure when she was supposed to be presenting evidence instead of just surviving. But Bella forced herself through it. Every bruise, every threat, every time Marcus had made her feel small and scared and trapped. Rachel took notes in neat, efficient handwriting. She didn't interrupt, didn't ask clarifying questions, just let Bella talk until the words finally ran out. "The protection order," Rachel said when Bella finished. "Do you have a copy?" "On my phone." "Send it to me. Also any medical records from injuries he caused. Photos if you have them. Text messages, voicemails, anything that documents his behavior." Rachel was already typing on her laptop. "The criminal conviction helps, but judges sometimes view that as ancient history if the perpetrator claims they've changed. We need recent evidence." "I have text messages from the last 3 weeks," Bella said, "and the bruises from 5 days ago. I I took photos before they faded. Good. That's good. Rachel's fingers flew across the keyboard. What about witnesses? Anyone who saw him threaten you or saw the aftermath of his violence? Mrs. Chen saw the bruise on my jaw last month, and my neighbor in the old apartment before I moved, she called the police once when she heard him shouting. Name and contact information for both. We'll need statements. Rachel glanced at Dante. What about the surveillance photo you mentioned? Already sent to your secure email, Dante said. He'd been silent throughout Bella's recitation, standing by the window like a statue. Along with the text he sent last night threatening Lily. Rachel nodded, pulled up her email, and studied whatever Dante had sent. Her expression didn't change, but something tightened around her mouth. This is good. This is very good. A direct threat to the child less than 24 hours before he files for custody? That's going to play well. What are our chances? Bella asked. Honestly? 70-30 in our favor, maybe better. Rachel closed her laptop. Marcus has the criminal record, the protection order violations, and now documented threats. But family court is unpredictable. Some judges believe every child deserves a relationship with both parents, regardless of the circumstances. We need to be prepared for the possibility that he gets supervised visitation. No. The word came out sharp, almost violent. He can't be around her. He can't. I understand. And we're going to argue that any contact would be psychologically damaging to Lily and physically dangerous to both of you. But you need to understand that the court might not agree. Rachel's voice was gentle but firm. If that happens, we appeal. We fight it at every level. But you need to be prepared for the long game. Bella's hands clenched into fists on the table. How long? Months. Maybe longer. Rachel pulled out a thick folder and slid it across to Bella. This is what you need to read before Tuesday. Statements from other cases, precedents, what to expect in the courtroom. You'll testify. You'll be cross-examined. Marcus's lawyer will try to make you look unstable or vengeful. You need to stay calm, stick to the facts, and don't let them provoke you. I can do that. Can you? Because if you break down on the stand or lose your temper, it could cost you custody. Rachel's gaze was steady, assessing. I've seen women lose their children because they couldn't hold it together in court. I need to know you won't be one of them. Bella met her eyes. I won't be. Good. Rachel stood. We'll meet again Monday to prepare your testimony. In the meantime, document everything. If Marcus contacts you, don't respond but save every message. If he shows up anywhere near you, call the police immediately and then call me. Understood? Understood. Rachel walked them to the door, then pulled Dante aside. They spoke in low voices that Bella couldn't quite hear. She saw Rachel's expression shift from professional to something harder, saw Dante nod once, sharply. When they rejoined Bella, Rachel's smile was back in place. You're in good hands. Dante doesn't lose either. They collected Lily and Mrs. Chen from the assistant's office. Lily had colored an elaborate picture of what appeared to be a castle with a dragon, both rendered in purple crayon. She clutched it proudly as they rode the elevator down to the parking garage. Did you like Emma's mommy? Bella asked. She's nice. She said Daddy can't take me away. Lily's voice was small, uncertain. Is that true? Bella's throat closed. She looked at Dante, who was watching them both with that same unreadable expression. Yes, baby, Bella whispered. That's true. Nobody's taking you anywhere. Vincent was waiting by the car. As they drove back through the city, Bella stared out the window and tried not to think about what would happen if Rachel was wrong. If the judge decided Marcus deserved another chance. If the system failed her the way it had failed so many women before her. You're spiraling, Dante said quietly. Bella jerked her attention back to the car. What? I can see it. You're thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. He was looking at her now, his dark eyes steady. Stop. Easy for you to say. No, it's not. But it's necessary. Dante shifted in his seat to face her more fully. You can't control what the judge decides. You can't control what Marcus does. All you can control is how you respond. So respond by trusting that we're going to win. And if we don't, we will. You can't know that. No, Dante agreed. But I can stack the odds so heavily in our favor that losing becomes almost impossible. That's what I'm doing. That's what Rachel's doing. Your job is to show up Tuesday and tell the truth. Bella wanted to argue, but Lily was listening with those wide, worried eyes. So she nodded and looked back out the window and tried to believe that Dante Moretti was as good at stacking odds as he claimed. They didn't go back to the brownstone. Instead, Vincent drove them to a different address, an apartment building in a quieter neighborhood, older but well-maintained. Dante led them up 3 flights of stairs to a corner unit with good light and furniture that looked comfortable rather than expensive. "This is where you're staying until Tuesday," Dante said, handing Bella a key. "Building has security cameras and a doorman who knows not to let anyone up without calling first. Vincent will be nearby. I'll check in daily." "Where will you be?" Bella asked, "making sure Marcus doesn't do anything stupid before the hearing." Dante moved through the apartment, checking windows, testing locks. "He's going to be watching you, waiting for you to mess up. Give him ammunition. Don't give it to him." "I won't." "Good." Dante finished his inspection and headed for the door. "I'll see you Monday at Rachel's office. 9 sharp. Don't be late." "Wait." Bella followed him into the hallway. "Why are you doing this, really?" Dante paused, his hand on the stair railing. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "Because someone should have done it for my mother, and nobody did." He was gone before Bella could respond, his footsteps echoing down the stairwell until they faded to silence. Bella stood there for a long moment, processing. Then she went back inside and locked the door behind her. The weekend passed in a strange suspension of time. Lily adapted quickly the way children did, turning the unfamiliar apartment into a game. Mrs. Chen cooked simple meals and hummed old Cantonese songs. Bella read through Rachel's folder until the words blurred together, memorizing statistics and legal precedents and strategies for staying calm under cross-examination. Marcus didn't contact her. That should have been a relief, but instead it felt ominous, like the quiet before something terrible. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Bella dressed carefully in clothes that Dante had somehow arranged to be delivered. A navy suit that fit perfectly, professional but not expensive, the kind of outfit that said responsible mother rather than desperate victim. She dropped Lily off with Mrs. Chen, who would stay at the apartment until the hearing was over, and met Vincent downstairs. Rachel's office felt different the second time. Less intimidating, maybe. Or maybe Bella was just too numb to be intimidated anymore. Rachel greeted her with coffee and a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We need to talk about tomorrow," Rachel said, settling into her chair. "The judge is Patricia Alvarez. She's fair but tough. Doesn't suffer fools or liars. That works in our favor." "Okay." Marcus's lawyer is going to paint a picture of a devoted father who made mistakes in the past, but has reformed. They'll emphasize his completion of anger management classes in prison, his steady employment since release, his desire to be part of his daughter's life. Rachel pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. "This is his petition. Read it." Bella read. It was worse than she'd imagined. Marcus claimed she'd been keeping Lily from him out of spite, that she'd fabricated abuse allegations, that she was emotionally unstable and prone to paranoia. There were character witnesses listed, people Bella had never met who apparently thought Marcus was a changed man. "This is all lies," Bella said, her voice shaking. "I know. And we're going to prove it. But you need to be prepared for how it's going to feel to hear these things said about you in open court." Rachel leaned forward. "They're going to call you vindictive, unstable, a bad mother. You cannot react. You cannot get angry or defensive. You answer every question calmly and truthfully, and you let me handle the rest." They spent the next 3 hours doing mock testimony. Rachel played the role of Marcus's lawyer, asking questions designed to provoke and undermine. She was brutal, relentless, finding every weak spot in Bella's story and pushing until Bella wanted to scream. "Again," Rachel said when Bella's voice cracked on a particularly painful question about why she hadn't left Marcus sooner. "From the top. And this time, don't apologize. You did what you had to do to survive. Own it." By the time they finished, Bella felt wrung out and raw. But she also felt something else, a grim determination that hadn't been there before. "You're ready," Rachel said finally. "Not perfect, but ready. Remember, calm, factual, honest. Don't embellish, don't minimize. Just tell the truth." Bella nodded. "What about Lily? Will they question her?" "Probably not in open court. If the judge wants to talk to her, it'll be in chambers with the child psychologist present. I'll be there. You won't." Rachel's expression softened slightly. I know that's hard, but it's better this way. Lily will be more honest without you in the room. The thought of her daughter being questioned without her there made Bella's chest tighten, but she understood the logic. Okay, go home, get some rest. I'll see you at the courthouse at 9:30 tomorrow. Rachel walked her to the door. And Bella? We're going to win this. Bella wanted to believe her. She really did. That night, Bella couldn't sleep. She lay in the unfamiliar bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. Around midnight, her phone buzzed. It was Dante. Just 2 words. You ready? She typed back, no. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, good. Overconfidence loses cases. Healthy fear keeps you sharp. Bella stared at the message for a long moment. Then, thank you for all of this. The response came quickly. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when it's over and Lily's safe. She wanted to ask where he was, what he was doing, if he really believed they could win. But before she could type anything, another message came through. Get some sleep, Bella. Tomorrow, we end this. She set the phone down and closed her eyes and tried to pretend that confidence wasn't a luxury she couldn't afford. Tried to believe that somewhere in this city, Dante Moretti was stacking odds and making plans and ensuring that Marcus Vance would finally face consequences. Tried to believe that the system that had failed her so many times before might actually work this once. And failed at all of it. When morning came, Bella was already awake. The courthouse steps felt steeper than they should have been. Bella climbed them with Rachel on one side and Vincent a few paces behind, his presence both reassuring and unsettling. The morning air was cold, biting through her suit jacket, and somewhere in the crowd of people streaming toward the entrance, Marcus was probably watching. She didn't look for him. Rachel had been clear about that. Don't engage, don't acknowledge, don't give him any ammunition. Inside, the building smelled like floor polish and stale coffee. Rachel guided her through security and up to the 3rd floor, where family court proceedings happened behind closed doors, away from the criminal trials and civil disputes that drew spectators. The hallway was quieter here, lined with wooden benches where anxious parents sat with their lawyers, waiting for their names to be called. Courtroom C, Rachel said, checking her phone. We're on time. That's good. Judges notice when you're late. They found seats on a bench outside the courtroom. Vincent took up a position by the window, his back to the wall, watching everyone who passed. Bella's hands were shaking, so she clasped them together in her lap and stared at the floor. Breathe, Rachel said quietly. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You've practiced this. You know what to do. What if I mess up? You won't. And even if you stumble, that's human. The judge expects you to be nervous. She'd be suspicious if you weren't. Rachel pulled out her tablet and began reviewing notes. Just remember, answer the question asked, don't volunteer extra information, and look at the judge when you speak, not at Marcus or his lawyer. What if he tries to talk to me? He won't. His lawyer isn't stupid enough to allow it, but if he does, you don't respond. You look at me, and I handle it. Rachel glanced up from her tablet. Where's Dante? I don't know. He said he'd be here. He will be. He doesn't make promises he can't keep. Rachel returned to her notes, her expression unreadable. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Bella watched other families enter courtroom C. Fathers who looked desperate, mothers who looked exhausted, children who looked confused. Each case was called, the doors closed, and 15 or 30 minutes later they emerged, some crying, some stone-faced, all changed in ways that weren't visible on the surface. At 9:45, Marcus appeared. Bella saw him before he saw her. He came around the corner with a man in an expensive suit, his lawyer, presumably. And for a moment he looked exactly like the man she'd married. Clean-shaven, hair neatly cut, wearing clothes that fit well and made him look respectable. He could have been anyone. A businessman, a concerned father, someone you'd trust to watch your kids at a playground. Then he smiled and Bella saw what was underneath. That particular curve of his mouth that meant he thought he'd already won, that she was stupid for even trying to fight him. Her breath caught in her throat. Don't look at him, Rachel said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the panic. Eyes on me, Bella, right now. Bella forced herself to turn away. Her heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her temples. Marcus and his lawyer took seats on the opposite bench. Bella could feel him staring at her, could imagine that smile still plastered on his face. Vincent shifted position slightly, putting himself more directly in Marcus's line of sight, and the message was clear. Try something, see what happens. The courtroom doors opened. A bailiff stepped out, checked a clipboard. Romano versus Vance, Judge Alvarez is ready for you. Rachel stood. Bella followed on legs that felt disconnected from her body. As they walked toward the courtroom, she heard Marcus's voice, low and amused. Hey Bella, you look good. Lost some weight? She didn't stop, didn't turn. Kept walking with Rachel's hand on her elbow, guiding her forward like a ship through rough water. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than she'd expected. No jury box, no gallery for spectators, just the judge's bench, a witness stand, tables for both parties, and a court reporter in the corner. Judge Alvarez was already seated, a black woman in her 50s with silver streaks in her hair and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up as they entered, her expression neutral. Ms. Chen, Mr. Vance's representation is here as well? The judge asked. Yes, Your Honor, Rachel said. Stephen Garrett, representing Marcus Vance. Garrett was younger than Rachel, maybe 35, with the kind of polished confidence that came from private school and family connections. He nodded respectfully to the judge and took his seat at the opposing table. Marcus sat beside him, hands folded, picture of calm reasonableness. Let's begin, Judge Alvarez said. This is an emergency custody hearing for Lily Romano, age 4. Mr. Vance has petitioned for immediate custody, claiming that the child is in danger with her current custodial parent. Ms. Chen, your client is contesting this petition? Vigorously, Your Honor, Rachel said. We believe Mr. Vance's petition is not only baseless, but actively harmful to the child's well-being. We'll hear arguments from both sides. Mr. Garrett, you filed the petition. You go first. Garrett stood, buttoning his suit jacket in a practiced motion. Thank you, Your Honor. My client, Marcus Vance, is a reformed man who has paid his debt to society and now seeks only to be a father to his daughter. For the past 3 weeks, Ms. Romano has denied him all access to Lily, despite his repeated good faith attempts to arrange visitation. She has made false allegations of harassment and threatened violence, when in fact my client has done nothing but try to exercise his parental rights. Bella's fingernails dug into her palms. Rachel's hand found her knee under the table, squeezed once. A warning, don't react. Mr. Vance completed an anger management program while incarcerated, Garrett continued. He has maintained steady employment since his release and has passed all required drug tests administered by his parole officer. He has a stable home and a genuine desire to rebuild his relationship with his daughter. Ms. Romano's refusal to allow this is not only cruel, it's damaging to Lily's development. Every child deserves a relationship with both parents when possible. Garrett sat down. Judge Alvarez made a note on the paper in front of her, then looked at Rachel. Ms. Chen? Rachel stood, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but edged with steel. Your Honor, Mr. Garrett's characterization of my client's actions as cruel is not only inaccurate, it's dangerous. Marcus Vance is not a reformed man seeking to be a good father. He is a convicted felon with a documented history of domestic violence who has spent the 3 weeks since his release terrorizing my client and her daughter. She pulled out a folder and approached the bench. I have here a protection order issued 2 years ago, prohibiting Mr. Vance from contacting Ms. Romano or Lily. I have medical records documenting injuries Ms. Romano sustained during their marriage, including a concussion requiring hospitalization. I have text messages from the past 3 weeks in which Mr. Vance explicitly threatens both my client and her daughter. And I have a sworn statement from a witness who observed Mr. Vance breaking into Ms. Romano's apartment 5 days ago. Judge Alvarez accepted the folder and began paging through it. The courtroom was silent except for the rustle of paper. Bella watched the judge's face for any reaction, but Alvarez's expression remained carefully neutral. Your Honor, Garrett said, rising again, those medical records are from over 2 years ago, before my client sought help and changed his life. The alleged threatening texts are taken out of context. I'll determine what's in or out of context, Mr. Garrett, Judge Alvarez said without looking up. Sit down. Garrett sat. Marcus's jaw tightened just slightly, and Bella saw it. That flash of anger he could never quite hide when someone told him no. Judge Alvarez finished reading and set the folder aside. Ms. Chen, these are serious allegations. I'm inclined to hear testimony before making any decisions. Does your client wish to testify? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Garrett, does your client wish to testify? Absolutely, Your Honor. Then we'll start with Miss Romano. Bailiff, swear her in. Bella stood on shaking legs and walked to the witness stand. The bailiff held out a Bible. She placed her hand on it, her palm damp with sweat. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do, Bella said, her voice barely audible. You'll need to speak up, Judge Alvarez said, not unkindly. The court reporter needs to hear you. I do, Bella repeated, louder this time. She sat in the witness chair. From this angle, she could see the entire courtroom. Rachel at her table, calm and composed. Garrett and Marcus at theirs, Marcus watching her with that same small smile. Judge Alvarez behind the bench, pen poised over her notepad. Ms. Romano, Rachel began, standing. How long were you married to Marcus Vance? 3 years. During that marriage, did Mr. Vance ever physically harm you? Bella's throat was dry. Yes. Can you describe the first incident? This was it. This was what she'd practiced. Bella took a breath and forced herself to speak clearly, to look at Judge Alvarez instead of at Marcus. It was about 6 months after we got married. We had an argument about money. He said I was spending too much on groceries. I told him I was just buying what we needed. He grabbed my wrist and twisted it until I apologized. Did he hurt you? Yes, I had bruises for a week. Did you report this to anyone? No. Why not? Because he apologized, said it would never happen again. I believed him. Bella's voice cracked slightly. She steadied it. And because I was embarrassed. I thought I could handle it. Rachel nodded. Did it happen again? Yes. How many times? I lost count. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Judge Alvarez was writing, her pen moving steadily across the page. Can you describe the worst incident? Rachel asked gently. Bella closed her eyes briefly, opened them. Lily was 6 months old. She was crying because she was teething, and Marcus had been drinking. He told me to make her stop. I was trying, but babies cry. You can't just make them stop. He got angry, and Her voice failed. She swallowed hard. He hit me hard enough that I fell and hit my head on the corner of the coffee table. I blacked out. When I woke up, Lily was still crying, and Marcus was gone. Did you seek medical attention? Yes. A neighbor heard the commotion and called an ambulance. I had a concussion and needed stitches. Bella forced herself to look at Marcus. His smile was gone now. His expression was cold, flat. That's when I told the hospital what really happened. That's when they called the police. And Mr. Vance was arrested? Not right away. They questioned him, but he claimed I'd fallen on my own, that I was clumsy and trying to blame him. It wasn't until he got arrested for the drug charges that everything came together. Rachel paced slowly in front of the witness stand. After Mr. Vance was incarcerated, what did you do? I filed for divorce. Got a protection order. Moved 3 times to make sure he couldn't find us when he got out. But he found you anyway. Yes. 3 weeks ago, the first day he was released. What happened when he found you? He was waiting at our apartment. He said he'd missed us. Said he wanted to be a family again. Bella's hands clenched in her lap. I told him no. Told him about the protection order. He just smiled and said orders were just paper. Did he threaten you? Not directly, not that first time. He just said family was forever and that he'd be seeing us around. What about subsequent encounters? He started showing up places. Outside Lily's preschool, at the coffee shop I go to in the mornings. He never approached us directly, just made sure I saw him, so I'd know he could get to us whenever he wanted. Rachel pulled out her phone. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence a text message Mr. Vance sent to my client 4 nights ago. She passed the phone to the bailiff, who handed it to Judge Alvarez. The judge read it, her expression tightening almost imperceptibly. Ms. Romano, Rachel said, can you read that message aloud for the record? Bella's voice shook as she recited the words she'd memorized through sheer repetition. I know where you are. I know what you're wearing. Wave to the camera, baby. Lily looks so peaceful when she sleeps. Shame if something happened to ruin that. Did you interpret that as a threat? Yes. He was threatening my daughter. Objection, Garrett said, standing. The message doesn't explicitly threaten anyone. It could be interpreted as a father expressing concern about his daughter's safety. Overruled, Judge Alvarez said. I can read, Mr. Garrett. That's a threat. Continue, Ms. Chen. Rachel turned back to Bella. 5 days ago, you reported that Mr. Vance broke into your apartment. Can you describe what happened? I woke up at 3 in the morning. He was standing in Lily's room watching her sleep. I confronted him, asked how he got in. He said he still had keys from when we were married, that this was still his home. Bella's voice was steadier now, the words coming easier. I told him to leave or I'd call the police. He laughed and said the police wouldn't get there in time to matter. Then he grabbed me, pushed me against the wall, and told me I needed to remember my place. Did he hurt you? Yes, he hit me in the ribs, hard enough that I had trouble breathing for 2 days. Did you report this to the police? No. Why not? This was the hard part, the part that made her look weak, stupid. Bella forced herself to say it anyway. Because I was afraid. Because the last time I reported him, nothing happened until he got arrested for something else. Because I thought if I called the police, it would just make him angrier and I'd be the one who paid for it. So what did you do instead? I took photos of the bruises, changed the locks, started sleeping with a chair under the doorknob. Bella looked directly at Judge Alvarez. And I tried to keep Lily safe. That's all I've ever tried to do. Rachel nodded. No further questions, Your Honor. Mr. Garrett, cross-examination? Judge Alvarez asked. Garrett stood, and Bella braced herself. This was what Rachel had prepared her for. The questions designed to make her look paranoid, vindictive, unstable. Ms. Romano, Garrett began, his tone friendly, conversational. You said you moved 3 times to avoid my client. Isn't it true that you moved because you were having financial difficulties? No, I moved to stay away from Marcus. But you were struggling financially, weren't you? Single mother, low-paying job, living paycheck to paycheck? I was managing. Managing by relying on the charity of neighbors? Mrs. Chen, for instance, who watches your daughter for free because you can't afford proper childcare. Mrs. Chen is a friend. She offers to watch Lily because she cares about us, or because you've manipulated an elderly woman into providing free services. Garrett's smile was sharp. Isn't it true that you've been telling people my client is dangerous as a way to garner sympathy and support? Objection, Rachel said, argumentative and assumes facts not in evidence. Sustained, Judge Alvarez said. Rephrase, Mr. Garrett. Garrett nodded. Have you told people that my client is dangerous? Yes, because he is. Based on incidents from over 2 years ago? Based on him breaking into my apartment 5 days ago and threatening my daughter 4 days ago? You say he broke in, but you have no proof of that, do you? No police report? No witnesses? I have the bruises. Bruises you photographed yourself, which could have come from anywhere. Garrett paced closer to the witness stand. Ms. Romano, isn't it possible that you've exaggerated or even fabricated these recent incidents because you don't want to share custody of Lily? No. Isn't it true that you told my client, and I quote, you'll never see her again? I said that to protect my daughter from a man who hurt me repeatedly during our marriage. A marriage you've characterized as entirely abusive, yet you stayed for 3 years. Why? The question hit like a slap. Bella felt her composure cracking, felt the tears burning behind her eyes. Because I was scared. Because I had nowhere else to go. Because he convinced me that I deserved it, that I was the problem. Or because it wasn't actually that bad, and you're now exaggerating to win sympathy in this custody battle? Objection! Rachel's voice cut through the courtroom like a whip. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Mr. Garrett, I'm warning you. Garrett backed off slightly, but the damage was done. Bella could feel herself shaking, could feel the carefully constructed composure that Rachel had drilled into her starting to crumble. Let's talk about the night of the party, Garrett said, switching tactics. 4 nights ago, you attended a social event at a private residence. Why? A friend invited me. And you left your daughter with Mrs. Chen to go to this party? Yes. So you felt comfortable leaving Lily with an elderly neighbor, but you claim you're terrified for her safety? I left her with someone I trust in a locked apartment. That's different from leaving her alone with someone who's hurt me. You keep saying my client hurt you, But according to his parole records, he's completed anger management, maintained employment, and had 0 violations. Doesn't that suggest he's changed? No. Why not? Because people like Marcus don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. The words came out harder than Bella had intended, edged with bitterness. She saw Judge Alvarez's pen pause on the notepad, saw Garrett's smile widen slightly. That's quite a cynical view, Ms. Romano. Almost vindictive, wouldn't you say? It's realistic. Or it's the view of someone who's determined to keep a father from his daughter, regardless of the evidence of rehabilitation? Garrett turned to the judge. No further questions, Your Honor. Bella stepped down from the witness stand on legs that barely held her. She'd survived it, barely. She took her seat next to Rachel, who gave her a brief nod of approval. Mr. Vance, Judge Alvarez said, you're up. Marcus stood and walked to the witness stand with the easy confidence of someone who thought he'd already won. He smiled at the bailiff, placed his hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth in a voice that sounded sincere and humble. Bella wanted to scream. Mr. Vance, Garrett began once Marcus was seated, can you tell us about your relationship with your daughter? I love Lily more than anything, Marcus said, and he sounded like he meant it. She's my whole world, always has been. During your incarceration, did you think about her? Every single day. It's what kept me going, knowing that when I got out, I could be the father she deserves. Have you attempted to contact Lily since your release? I tried, but Bella won't let me near her. I've asked politely, I've tried to arrange supervised visits through official channels, but she refuses. Says I'm dangerous. Marcus shook his head sadly. I understand why she's angry. I wasn't a good husband. I made mistakes, but I've changed. I've done the work. I just want a chance to prove it. Can you explain the text message that Ms. Romano characterized as a threat? That wasn't a threat. I was worried about Lily's safety because Bella keeps moving around, taking her to unfamiliar places. I wanted her to know I was concerned, that I was thinking about our daughter's well-being. It was masterful. Marcus sat there, looking earnest and reformed, spinning every piece of evidence into something benign. The break-in became a concerned father checking on his child. The text became paternal worry. The years of abuse became mistakes he'd learned from. Rachel stood for cross-examination. Mr. Vance, you said you made mistakes during your marriage. Can you be specific about what those mistakes were? I lost my temper sometimes. Said things I shouldn't have. Just words? Mostly, yes. So you're denying that you physically assaulted Ms. Romano multiple times during your marriage. I'm saying things got heated sometimes, but it was never as bad as she's making it sound now. You were convicted of assault, Rachel said flatly. That charge was related to my other activities, not to Bella. You were also the subject of a protection order prohibiting you from contacting her. Why would a judge issue that if you weren't a danger to her? Because Bella asked for it, and judges give women what they want in these situations. Rachel's expression didn't change. Do you have keys to Ms. Romano's current apartment? Marcus hesitated for just a fraction of a second. No. So you're denying that you entered her apartment 5 days ago? Absolutely, I wouldn't do that. Where were you that night? Home? Asleep? Can anyone verify that? I live alone, so no, but that doesn't mean I wasn't there. Rachel paced slowly, letting the silence stretch. Mr. Vance, you completed anger management in prison. What did you learn? That violence isn't the answer, that there are better ways to handle conflict. And yet you sent Ms. Romano a text message that any reasonable person would interpret as threatening. I didn't mean it that way. How did you mean it? As a father worried about his daughter. A father who, by the terms of the protection order, isn't supposed to contact the mother at all. Marcus's jaw tightened. That order is 2 years old. Things have changed. Have they? Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 3 weeks stalking and harassing my client. Rachel's voice was cold now, precise. You showed up at her home, her workplace, her daughter's school. You sent threatening messages. You made her afraid to leave her apartment. Does that sound like a changed man to you? I was trying to see my daughter. You were terrorizing a woman you abused for 3 years. Rachel turned to Judge Alvarez. No further questions. Marcus stepped down, his expression darker now. The mask of the reformed father was slipping, and Bella could see what was underneath. The anger, the entitlement, the certainty that he deserved Lily because she was his. Judge Alvarez made notes for what felt like an eternity. Then she looked up, her expression grave. "I've heard enough," she said. "This court will take a 15-minute recess while I review the evidence. When we return, I'll issue my ruling." The bailiff called for everyone to rise as Judge Alvarez left the courtroom. Bella stood on autopilot, her mind spinning. 15 minutes. Her daughter's entire future decided in 15 minutes. Rachel guided her out into the hallway. Vincent was there immediately, positioning himself between them and Marcus, who emerged a moment later with Garrett. "You did well," Rachel said quietly. "Better than I expected. I almost lost it when he asked why I stayed. But you didn't. You held it together." Rachel checked her watch. "Now we wait." Bella walked to the window at the end of the hall and stared out at the city below. Somewhere out there, Lily was playing with Mrs. Chen, unaware that a judge was deciding whether she'd have to see the father who terrified her mother. Footsteps approached from behind. Bella didn't turn, expecting Rachel or Vincent. "You think you've won," Marcus's voice said, low and dangerous. "You haven't." Bella spun around. Marcus stood 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the fury in his eyes. Vincent was already moving, but Marcus held up his hands in mock surrender. "Just talking to my wife," Marcus said. "That's not illegal." "Ex-wife," Bella said, her voice steadier than she felt. "And yes, it is. You're violating the protection order right now. Orders are just paper, baby. I told you that." Marcus smiled, and it was the smile from her nightmares. "You can hide behind lawyers and judges all you want, but at the end of the day, Lily is my daughter, and I always get what's mine." Vincent put himself between them, his hand moving to his jacket in a gesture that was unmistakable. "Step away from her. Now!" Marcus laughed and backed up, hands still raised. "Relax, friend. Just having a conversation." He looked past Vincent to Bella. "See you soon, Bella. Real soon." He walked away, Garrett following and muttering something about staying away from the opposing party. Vincent stayed tense until Marcus disappeared around the corner. "You okay?" Vincent asked. Bella nodded, not trusting her voice. Her hands were shaking again, adrenaline flooding her system. Marcus had been so close enough to hurt her if Vincent hadn't been there. Rachel appeared, her expression furious. "I'm filing a complaint with his parole officer about that. He just violated the protection order in a courthouse." "Will it matter?" Bella asked. "It will if the judge sees my report before she makes her ruling." Rachel was already typing on her phone. That was stupid of him, monumentally stupid. 5 minutes later, they were called back into the courtroom. Bella's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Judge Alvarez entered and took her seat, her expression unreadable. "I've reviewed all the evidence presented today," the judge began. "I've considered the testimony of both parties. I've examined the documentation of Mr. Vance's criminal history, the protection order, and the recent communications between the parties." Bella couldn't breathe. "I find," Judge Alvarez continued, "that Mr. Vance has demonstrated a pattern of threatening and harassing behavior toward Ms. Romano that has continued even after his release from incarceration. The text message sent 4 days ago constitutes a clear threat to both Ms. Romano and the minor child Lily. The alleged break-in, while not reported to police, is consistent with Mr. Vance's history of violating boundaries and attempting to control Ms. Romano." Marcus's lawyer shifted in his seat. Marcus himself sat perfectly still, that smile frozen on his face. "Furthermore," the judge said, "I've just been informed that Mr. Vance approached and threatened Ms. Romano in the hallway during recess, in direct violation of the existing protection order. This demonstrates that he has neither reformed nor learned to respect legal boundaries." The smile fell from Marcus's face. "Therefore," Judge Alvarez said, "I'm denying Mr. Vance's petition for custody. The protection order remains in full effect. Additionally, I am ordering that Mr. Vance have no contact whatsoever with Lily Romano until such time as he can demonstrate genuine rehabilitation and no threat to the child's physical or emotional well-being. A copy of today's proceedings will be forwarded to his parole officer." "Your Honor," Garrett said, standing quickly, "we request supervised visitation at minimum. Request denied. This man threatened his daughter 4 days ago and threatened the child's mother less than an hour ago in this very courthouse. I will not grant any form of access until he proves he can follow the law. Judge Alvarez's gaze was steel. Mr. Vance, if you contact Ms. Romano or Lily again, you will be in violation of both the protection order and your parole. Do you understand? Marcus stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was tight with barely controlled rage. Yes, Your Honor. Good. This hearing is concluded. Judge Alvarez stood. Bailiff? The courtroom emptied quickly. Bella sat frozen in her chair, unable to process what had just happened. They'd won. They'd actually won. Rachel was already on her phone, talking rapidly to someone about the parole violation report. Vincent appeared at Bella's elbow, his expression professionally neutral, but something that might have been approval in his eyes. We should leave before Vance does, Vincent said quietly. There's a back exit through the judge's chambers. Judge Alvarez said we could use it. Bella nodded numbly and let Vincent guide her out. Rachel followed, still on the phone, issuing instructions with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. They emerged into a different hallway, one that led to an underground parking garage. Vincent's car was waiting, engine already running. He opened the door and Bella slid inside, the leather seats cold against her legs. "Where's Dante?" she asked, the question coming out of nowhere. "Handling some business," Vincent said, pulling out of the garage. "He'll meet you at the apartment." The drive back felt surreal. Bella stared out the window at the city passing by, at people going about their normal lives, completely unaware that hers had just fundamentally changed. She'd won. Marcus couldn't touch them. The judge had seen through his act, had protected Lily, had done what the system so rarely did. She should have felt relief. Victory. Something. Instead, she felt numb. Back at the apartment, Mrs. Chen greeted her with Lily in tow. Her daughter launched herself at Bella's legs, chattering about the pancakes Mrs. Chen had made for lunch, about the cartoon they'd watched, about a bird she'd seen on the windowsill. Normal things, safe things. "Did we win?" Mrs. Chen asked in halting English. "Yes," Bella managed. "We won." Mrs. Chen smiled and patted her cheek, then gathered her things and left them alone. Bella held Lily close, breathing in the scent of syrup and children's shampoo, and tried to make herself believe it was over. An hour later, there was a knock at the door. Bella checked the peephole and saw Dante, alone, his expression unreadable. She let him in. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him, his gaze moving immediately to Lily, who was coloring at the kitchen table. "Rachel called," Dante said. "Congratulations." "Thank you, for everything." "Don't thank me yet." Dante's voice was quiet, controlled. "Marcus violated parole today. That means he's going back to prison. But before that happens, he's going to be angry, desperate. Men like him don't accept losing gracefully." The numbness cracked, and fear rushed in to fill the space. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the next 48 hours are the most dangerous. He knows he's going back inside. He has nothing left to lose." Dante moved to the window, checked the street below. "Vincent's posted outside. I've got people watching Marcus's apartment, but you need to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't answer the door for anyone except me or Vincent." "For how long?" "Until he's in custody." Dante turned from the window. "His parole officer has been notified. They're issuing a warrant. It's just a matter of time." "Time," Bella repeated. "How much time?" "I don't know. Hours. Maybe a day." Dante's expression softened fractionally. "But he's not getting near you or Lily. I promise you that." Bella wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that promises meant something, that the system that had protected her today would continue to protect her tomorrow. But she'd learned the hard way that safety was temporary and promises were fragile. And somewhere out there, Marcus Vance was learning that he'd lost and planning what came next. The call came at 2 in the morning. Bella jerked awake to the sound of her phone vibrating on the nightstand, her heart already racing before she was fully conscious. She grabbed it, saw Dante's name on the screen, and answered. "What's wrong?" "Marcus is gone." Dante's voice was clipped, controlled fury underneath the calm. "He slipped his tail 3 hours ago. We've been searching, but he's off grid. No phone, no credit cards, nothing." Bella sat up, her chest tight. "What does that mean?" "It means he's planning something. Vincent's outside your building, And I'm sending 2 more men to cover the other entrances. You don't leave that apartment. Not for anything. Understand? Yes. I'm on my way. 20 minutes. The line went dead. Bella sat in the darkness, listening to Lily's soft breathing from the other room. 3 hours. Marcus had been out there for 3 hours, knowing the police were looking for him, knowing he was going back to prison. 3 hours to plan whatever revenge he thought he deserved. She got out of bed and checked every window, every lock, the chain on the door. Everything was secure. Everything was fine, except her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Dante arrived in 15 minutes. Bella heard his voice in the hallway, heard Vincent's quiet response, then a knock on the door. She checked the peephole before opening it, saw Dante's face illuminated by the hallway light, and let him in. He looked different than she'd ever seen him. His suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled up, and there was something harder in his expression. Not angry exactly, focused. Any contact from him? Dante asked, moving immediately to the windows. No, nothing. Good. That's good. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something. I've got people checking his known associates, places he used to go. He can't hide forever. He's not smart enough. He found me 3 times when I was trying to hide, Bella said. He's smarter than you think. No, he's obsessive. There's a difference. Dante finished whatever he was typing and pocketed the phone. Obsession makes you predictable. He'll come here eventually. He can't help himself. And when he does, we'll be ready. Bella wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the apartment's warmth. I should have known. I should have known he wouldn't just accept losing. You couldn't have done anything differently. This is who he is. Dante moved away from the window and faced her directly. But Bella, I need you to listen to me very carefully. When he comes, and he will come, you need to do exactly what I tell you when I tell you. No hesitation. Can you do that? What are you planning? To end this, permanently. The way he said it sent a chill down Bella's spine. What does that mean? It means making sure Marcus Vance never threatens you or Lily again. Dante's gaze was steady, unflinching. There are legal ways to do that. I'm pursuing all of them, but if he forces my hand, I'll do what's necessary to keep you safe. Bella should have been horrified, should have asked what necessary meant, what lines Dante was willing to cross. Instead, she just felt tired. Tired of being afraid, tired of running, tired of trusting systems that kept failing her. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, what? Okay, I trust you, to do whatever needs to be done. Dante studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Get some sleep. I'll be here all night. I can't sleep. Try anyway. You'll need your energy tomorrow. Bella wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her like an undertow. She nodded and went to check on Lily one more time, found her daughter sprawled across the bed in that boneless way children slept, completely unaware of the danger circling them. Back in her own room, Bella lay down but didn't close her eyes. She could hear Dante moving around the apartment, the quiet murmur of his voice as he made calls, the deliberate sound of someone who was in control even when everything else was spinning out. She must have dozed eventually because she woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the smell of coffee. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Dante at the kitchen table with his laptop open, 3 empty coffee cups beside him. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. Anything? Bella asked. Maybe. One of Marcus's old cellmates said he mentioned a storage unit on the south side. We're checking it now. Dante didn't look up from the screen. Also, his parole officer finally issued the warrant. There's an APB out. Every cop in the city is looking for him. That should make me feel better. But it doesn't. No. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Mama, I'm hungry. Bella made breakfast while Dante continued working, his focus absolute. Lily chattered about wanting to go to the park, about missing her friends from preschool, about normal 4-year-old concerns that felt surreal against the backdrop of everything else. Not today, baby, Bella said, setting a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her daughter. We're staying home today. Why? Because it's safer here. Lily considered this with the seriousness she'd inherited from Bella. Because of Daddy? The question hit Bella like a punch. She knelt down beside Lily's chair. What do you remember about Daddy? He was loud sometimes. He made you sad. Lily's voice was matter-of-fact, innocent. I don't want him to come back. He's not coming back, sweetheart, I promise. The tall man said so too. Lily pointed at Dante without looking at him. He said he'd make sure Daddy stayed away. Dante's hands paused on the keyboard. He looked at Lily, then at Bella, and something unreadable crossed his face. That's right, he said quietly. I did say that. Are you a policeman? Lily asked. No. Then how will you stop him? By being smarter than he is. Lily seemed to accept this and returned to her eggs. Bella stood, her legs unsteady, and met Dante's eyes across the kitchen. He held her gaze for a moment, then returned to his laptop without saying anything else. The morning crawled by. Vincent called twice with updates that went nowhere. The storage unit had been empty except for some old furniture. Marcus's ex-cellmate claimed he didn't know anything else. The APB had generated a few false sightings, but nothing concrete. By noon, Bella was ready to crawl out of her skin. She paced the apartment while Lily watched cartoons, checked her phone compulsively, even though she knew Marcus wouldn't contact her that way. He was done with threats. Whatever came next would be action. You need to eat something, Dante said, appearing beside her with a sandwich she didn't remember him making. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You're no good to Lily if you collapse. Bella took the sandwich and managed a few bites before her stomach rebelled. She set it down and went to the window, staring out at the street below. Vincent was still there, leaning against his car, phone to his ear. Normal people walked past, a woman with a dog, a man in a business suit, teenagers laughing about something. Normal lives. The kind she'd forgotten existed. He's going to come at night, Bella said suddenly. That's when he always felt most powerful. When it was dark and I couldn't see him coming. Then we'll be ready at night. Dante joined her at the window. But he might surprise us. Desperation makes people unpredictable. You've done this before. It wasn't a question. Dante didn't deny it. Yes. Helped people like me? People who needed protection from someone the system couldn't stop. Yes. How many? Does it matter? Bella turned to look at him. You said someone should have helped your mother. What happened to her? Dante's expression shuddered. That's not relevant. It is to me. I need to know who I'm trusting. For a long moment, Bella thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said quietly, My father was like Marcus, charming when he wanted to be, violent when he wasn't getting his way. My mother tried to leave him 3 times. 3 times the court sent her back, said she was overreacting, said every child needs their father. What happened? The 4th time she tried to leave, he killed her, beat her to death in front of me and my sister. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless. I was 12. Maria was 8. We went into foster care. He went to prison for 15 years, got out on good behavior, and died 6 months later in a bar fight. Bella felt her throat close. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me something important. Dante met her eyes. The system doesn't protect people like my mother, like you. It's designed by people who've never been afraid in their own homes, who think orders and hearings matter to men who don't recognize any authority but their own. So someone has to step in. Someone has to do what the system won't. And that's you. That's me. Bella wanted to ask more. What had happened to his sister? How he'd gone from a foster kid to someone with resources and connections. What exactly he did when the system failed. But Lily called from the living room, wanting juice, and the moment passed. The afternoon stretched into evening. Dante made more calls, coordinated with Vincent and the other men he had watching Marcus's known locations. Rachel checked in with an update from the parole office. They were treating this as a high-priority manhunt, had added Marcus to regional databases, were doing everything by the book. By the book. As if books mattered to men like Marcus. Bella made dinner that none of them ate, put Lily to bed early, reading her 3 stories until her daughter's eyes finally closed. Then she returned to the living room and found Dante at the window again, his posture tense. What is it? She asked. Vincent just reported movement in the alley behind the building. Might be nothing. Might be someone scouting. Bella's pulse spiked. You think it's him? I think we should assume it is until proven otherwise. Dante pulled out his phone, typed rapidly. I'm pulling the other men in closer. If he's here, we'll... The lights went out. Not just in the apartment, the entire building went dark. emergency exit signs casting the only illumination in the sudden blackness. "Don't move," Dante said, his voice sharp. "Stay exactly where you are." Bella heard him moving, heard the sound of something metallic, a weapon, probably, being drawn. Her eyes adjusted slowly to the darkness, shapes resolving into furniture, doorways, the outline of Dante's form against the window. Then she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. "Dante," she whispered. "I hear it. Get in Lily's room. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you." Bella wanted to argue, wanted to stay and fight, but Dante's earlier words echoed in her head. "Do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you." She moved quickly but quietly to Lily's room, slipped inside, and locked the door. Lily was still asleep, oblivious. Bella positioned herself between the door and her daughter's bed, her phone in her hand, ready to call 911 if... The apartment door crashed open. She heard splintering wood, heard Dante's voice say something sharp and commanding, heard another voice respond with words she couldn't make out. Then sounds of a struggle, bodies hitting furniture, something shattering, a grunt of pain. Bella wanted to scream, wanted to run to Lily, grab her and escape through the window, but they were 3 floors up and Lily was asleep, and Dante had told her to stay here. The fighting stopped. Silence rushed in to fill the space, horrible and complete. "Dante?" Bella called, her voice shaking. No answer. "Dante!" Still nothing. Then footsteps coming toward Lily's room, slow, measured. The doorknob turned, found the lock, stopped. "Bella?" Marcus's voice muffled through the door. "Open up, baby. Let's talk." Bella's blood turned to ice. She pressed herself against Lily's bed, phone clutched in one hand. "Where's Dante?" "The hired muscle? He's sleeping. Don't worry, he'll wake up with a headache." Marcus tried the door again. "Come on, Bella. You can't hide in there forever. And I really don't want to break down this door with our daughter on the other side." "The police are coming. Vincent called them. Vincent's zip-tied in his car with a broken nose, and I cut the building's phone lines before I killed the power." Marcus sounded almost amused. "It's just you and me now, like old times." Bella's finger hovered over the 911 button on her phone. But Marcus was right. If he broke down the door, if there was violence with Lily right here... "What do you want?" she asked, stalling. "What I've always wanted, my family, my daughter." A pause. "You can come too if you behave, or I can take just Lily and leave you here. Your choice." "You're not taking her anywhere?" "Bella, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You know how I get when I'm frustrated." Yes, she did. She knew exactly how he got. Behind the door, Lily stirred. "Mama?" "Shh, baby, go back to sleep." "Is that Daddy?" Lily's voice was small, frightened. "Hello, Princess," Marcus called through the door. "Daddy missed you." "I don't want to see you," Lily said, and started crying. Something snapped in Bella. Years of fear, of running, of trying to protect her daughter from this man. It all crystallized into pure rage. She unlocked her phone and dialed 911, pressed send, and spoke clearly into the receiver. "My ex-husband is breaking into my apartment. He's violating a protection order. 328 Oak Street, apartment 3C. He's armed and dangerous and..." The door exploded inward. Marcus had kicked it off its hinges. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the faint emergency lighting from the hallway, and Bella saw what she'd been too afraid to see at the courthouse. He was wild-eyed, desperate, completely unmoored from reality. "You just couldn't make this easy," he said. Bella threw her phone at him. It hit his shoulder, fell to the ground, the 911 operator's voice still asking for information. Marcus crushed it under his boot. "Get away from her," Bella said, positioning herself fully between Marcus and Lily's bed. "She's my daughter." "You gave up that right when you decided to be a monster." Marcus moved forward. Bella grabbed the lamp from Lily's nightstand and swung it at his head. He blocked it easily, ripped it from her hands, and threw it across the room where it shattered against the wall. Lily was screaming now, backing up against the headboard. Marcus reached for Bella. She scratched at his face, felt her nails connect with flesh, heard him curse. He grabbed her wrist and twisted, the same way he had 7 years ago. The motion so familiar it made her want to vomit. "Stop fighting me," Marcus hissed. "You never learn, do you?" Then someone grabbed Marcus from behind and slammed him against the wall so hard the entire apartment shook. Dante. His face was bleeding from a cut above his eye, and he moved with a slight limp, but his grip on Marcus was iron. He had Marcus's arm twisted behind his back, Marcus's face pressed against the wallpaper. "You made a mistake coming here," Dante said, his voice deadly quiet. Marcus laughed, the sound manic. "You think you can stop me? You think some hired thug is going to—" Dante twisted Marcus's arm harder. Something popped. Marcus screamed. "I think," Dante said, "that you just assaulted a woman and terrorized a child in front of multiple witnesses. I think you violated parole, broke a protection order, and committed breaking and entering. I think you're going back to prison for a very long time. You can't prove—" The 911 call is still connected. They heard everything. Vincent's conscious and calling for backup. And I have video from the security cameras I installed in this apartment 3 days ago. Dante's smile was cold. "You're done, Marcus. You're finally done." The fight went out of Marcus all at once. He sagged against the wall and Bella saw him for what he really was. Not a monster, just a broken, pathetic man who'd never learned that control wasn't love and fear wasn't respect. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Dante kept Marcus pinned until the police arrived. 4 officers thundered up the stairs, weapons drawn, and took Marcus into custody. They found Vincent in his car, bloodied but conscious. Found the tools Marcus had used to cut the phone lines, the crowbar he'd used to break down the apartment door. They found all the evidence they needed to ensure Marcus wouldn't see freedom for a decade, maybe more. An EMT checked Dante's injuries. Mild concussion, bruised ribs, nothing serious. Another checked Bella and Lily, both physically unharmed but shaking with adrenaline and fear. Rachel appeared an hour later, somehow already dressed in a perfect suit despite the late hour. She took statements, coordinated with the police, ensured that everything was documented properly. "He's done," she told Bella as the sun was starting to rise. "Assault, breaking and entering, violation of parole, terroristic threats. He'll be lucky if he sees parole again before his 50s. Bella nodded numbly. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like exhaustion. Dante found her sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. Lily had finally fallen asleep in her arms, worn out from crying. The apartment was a disaster. Broken door, shattered lamp, furniture overturned from the fight. But it was quiet now, safe. "We need to move you," Dante said, sitting down carefully beside her. "This place isn't secure anymore." "Where?" "The property upstate I mentioned. It's ready. You can stay there as long as you need." "And then what?" "Then you build a life. A real one, without looking over your shoulder." Dante's voice was gentle. "Marcus is going away for a long time, but even when he eventually gets out, he won't come for you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because I'm going to make sure the conditions of his parole are ironclad. Because I'm going to have people watching him for the rest of his natural life. And because—" Dante paused, seemed to reconsider his words. "Because you won't be alone. Not anymore." Bella looked at him, at this man who'd appeared in her life less than a week ago and turned everything upside down. "Why are you doing this? Really?" "I told you, my mother. That's why you started. But it's not why you're still here." Bella shifted Lily's weight in her arms. "You could have paid for the lawyer and walked away. You didn't have to sit through a court hearing. Didn't have to stay up all night protecting us. Didn't have to fight Marcus yourself. So why did you?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about my mother and started being about you, about Lily, about making sure you both get the life you deserve." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have right now." Dante stood, wincing slightly at the movement. "Vincent's bringing a car around. We'll take you to the safe house, get you settled. You can decide what comes next when you're ready." Bella wanted to push, wanted answers to questions she wasn't even sure how to ask. But Lily was heavy in her arms, and the sun was rising, and somewhere in a police station, Marcus was learning that his reign of terror was finally over. That would have to be enough for now. Vincent pulled up 20 minutes later with a different car, this one bigger, with dark-tinted windows. Bella carried Lily downstairs while Dante grabbed the few belongings they'd need immediately. The building's residents were starting to emerge, curious about the police activity, the broken door, the drama that had unfolded while they slept. Bella didn't look at any of them. just kept her eyes forward and climbed into the back seat with Lily still asleep against her shoulder. The drive upstate took 2 hours through morning traffic. Bella watched the city give way to suburbs, then to actual countryside, trees and open spaces and sky that wasn't hemmed in by buildings. Lily woke up halfway through, disoriented, and Bella explained they were going on an adventure to a new house in the country. "Will Daddy find us there?" Lily asked. "No, baby, he won't." "Promise?" Bella looked at Dante in the rearview mirror. He met her eyes and nodded, just once. "I promise," Bella said. The safe house was nothing like the brownstone. It was a real house, 2 stories with weathered siding and a wraparound porch, set back from the road by a long driveway lined with oak trees. There was a barn in the back, a garden that had gone wild, space and silence, and the kind of peace Bella had forgotten existed. "It's been in my family for years," Dante said as Vincent parked in front of the house. "Nobody knows about it except people I trust. You'll be safe here." Bella stepped out of the car and breathed air that didn't smell like exhaust and concrete. Lily wiggled out of her arms and ran toward the porch, delighted by the expanse of grass and the promise of exploration. "How long can we stay?" Bella asked. "As long as you want." Dante unlocked the front door and held it open. "There's no timeline, no pressure. This is yours until you decide what comes next." The interior was simple but comfortable. Worn furniture, a fireplace, a kitchen that looked like it had been updated sometime in the last decade. Windows on every wall letting in natural light. A staircase leading to bedrooms on the second floor. It felt like a home. A real home, not a hiding place. Lily was already exploring, her earlier tears forgotten in the excitement of somewhere new. Bella stood in the living room and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 6 days. The party. Dante. The courthouse. Marcus breaking down the door. All of it felt surreal, like it had happened to someone else. "There's food in the kitchen," Dante said. "Vincent stocked it yesterday. And there's a landline if you need to call anyone. It's not connected to your name, totally secure. You think of everything." "I try." Dante moved toward the door, and Bella realized he was leaving. "Wait," she said. "Where are you going?" "Back to the city. I have some things to tie up. Make sure Marcus's charges stick. Coordinate with Rachel about the legal aftermath." He paused in the doorway. "But I'll be back. Tomorrow. Maybe the day after." "You don't have to." "I know." Dante met her eyes. "But I will anyway." He left before Bella could respond. She heard Vincent's car start up, heard the crunch of gravel as they drove away, and then it was just her and Lily in this house in the middle of nowhere with nothing but silence and space and the unfamiliar sensation of being safe. Bella walked to the window and watched the driveway until she couldn't see the car anymore. Then she turned back to the house, to her daughter, playing with a stuffed animal she'd found on the couch, and tried to figure out what you were supposed to do when the nightmare finally ended and real life was supposed to begin. The first week at the safe house passed in a strange suspension of time. Bella woke each morning expecting to find Marcus standing over her bed, or to hear police sirens, or to discover that the past few days had been some elaborate dream. Instead, she found sunlight streaming through curtains she'd forgotten to close, Lily's soft breathing from the next room, and silence that felt almost alien after years of holding her breath. Dante called every evening at 7. The calls were brief, factual updates about Marcus's case, Rachel's progress with the legal proceedings, the status of the protection order that was now permanent and backed by felony charges. He never asked how she was doing, never made small talk, just delivered information and ended the call. On the 8th day, he showed up in person. Bella was in the garden, trying to salvage something from the overgrown mess of weeds and forgotten vegetables, when she heard a car in the driveway. She stood, dirt on her knees, and saw Dante getting out of a black sedan. He looked tired, she thought, more tired than when he'd fought Marcus. "You didn't say you were coming," Bella said, pulling off her gardening gloves. "Wanted to check on things in person." Dante surveyed the property, his gaze taking in the barn she'd started cleaning out, the porch she'd swept, the flower boxes she'd inexplicably decided to plant. "You've been busy. Turns out I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not running or hiding." Bella wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of dirt she didn't notice. "How bad is it?" "Depends on your definition of bad." Dante followed her into the house, where Lily was sprawled on the living room floor with crayons and paper. Marcus was arraigned yesterday. 3 counts of assault, breaking and entering, violation of a protection order, parole violation, and terroristic threats. Bail was denied. So he's in jail. He's in jail. And his public defender is already talking about a plea deal because the evidence is overwhelming. Dante accepted the glass of water Bella offered him. Rachel thinks he'll take it. 20 years minimum, possibility of parole after 15 if he demonstrates genuine rehabilitation. 20 years. Lily would be 24. An adult. Safe. What about the other stuff? Bella asked. The plea deal? Does it require me to do anything? No victim impact statement if that's what you're worried about. The 911 recording, the video from the apartment, Vincent's testimony, and the physical evidence are enough. You don't have to see him again unless you choose to. Bella sank into a chair, the weight of it hitting her all at once. I don't have to see him again. No. She started crying. Not the panicked, gasping sobs from the night Marcus broke down the door, but something quieter. Relief, maybe. Or grief for all the years she'd lost being afraid. Dante set down his water glass and just waited. He didn't try to comfort her, didn't offer platitudes, just gave her space to fall apart. Lily looked up from her coloring, saw her mother crying, and climbed into her lap without a word. Bella held her daughter and cried into her hair and tried to believe that this was real, that it was actually over. When the tears finally stopped, Dante said, "There's something else we need to talk about." Bella wiped her face with the back of her hand. What? What comes next? For you and Lily. Dante leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You can stay here as long as you want, but eventually you're going to need to build a real life. Job, school for Lily, stability. I know. Rachel's been working on getting Marcus's parental rights terminated. Given the circumstances, it shouldn't be difficult, but it will take time, months, maybe a year. Until then, you're still technically bound by custody arrangements even though he's incarcerated. So I can't just leave the state. Not without court permission, which Rachel can get, but it's another legal process. Dante pulled out his phone and showed her something. I've been looking into options. There's a town about 40 minutes from here. Small, quiet, good school system. I know someone who owns a property management company there. They're looking for an office manager. Bella stared at the job listing on his screen. You got me a job interview? I got you an opportunity. Whether you take it is up to you. I don't have a college degree. I've been working retail and cleaning houses for the past 4 years. The owner doesn't care about degrees. She cares about reliability and attention to detail. You've been surviving an abusive marriage and protecting your daughter for years. You think managing rental properties is going to be harder than that? Put that way, it almost sounded reasonable. Bella scrolled through the listing, her mind already spinning with logistics, childcare, rent, transportation, all the normal problems that people without violent ex-husbands worried about. Why are you doing this? She asked for what felt like the 100th time. Dante took his phone back. Because someone has to. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting today. He stood, moving toward the door. Think about the job. Interview is Thursday at 10 if you want it. I'll drive you. Dante. Bella stood too, Lily still in her arms. I need to know, are you doing this because you feel responsible for me? Because of what happened to your mother? He paused, his back to her. Does it matter? Yes. Why? Because I need to know if I'm a project to you. Something to fix so you can feel better about the past. Bella's voice shook slightly. Because I can't be someone's redemption. I'm barely holding myself together as it is. Dante turned around slowly. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost vulnerable. You're not a project. Then what am I? Someone I care about. The words came out rough, like he wasn't used to saying them. Someone who deserves better than what she got. Someone I want to see safe and happy and building a life that isn't defined by fear. That's not... Bella stopped, recalibrated. You barely know me. I know you stayed in an abusive marriage for 3 years because you were trying to protect your daughter. I know you moved 3 times and rebuilt your life from nothing each time. I know you showed up to that court hearing terrified and still told the truth even when Marcus's lawyer tried to break you. Dante's voice was steady, certain. I know enough. Lily squirmed out of Bella's arms and went back to her coloring, oblivious to the tension in the room. Bella wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how she must look. Dirty from gardening, hair a mess, wearing clothes that were 3 days past needing a wash. "I'm a mess," she said quietly. "So am I." "You hide it better. Practice." Dante moved closer, not touching but near enough that Bella could see the fading bruise on his jaw from where Marcus had hit him. "Look, I'm not good at this, at talking about feelings or whatever you want to call it, but I know what I know. And I know that somewhere between that party and now, you stopped being about my mother and started being about you." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not here out of obligation or guilt. I'm here because I want to be." Dante shoved his hands in his pockets. "And if that makes you uncomfortable, if you want me to back off and just handle things from a distance, I will. But I needed you to know that you're not a project. You're—" He stopped, seemed to struggle with the words. "You're someone who matters. To me." Bella's throat closed. She wanted to say something, but her brain had gone offline somewhere around "you matter to me" and hadn't rebooted yet. "Think about the job," Dante said, breaking the silence. "I'll call you tomorrow." He left before Bella could form a response. She stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the door he'd just walked through, trying to process what had just happened. "Mama?" Lily looked up from her drawing. "Do you like the tall man?" "What?" "The tall man, Dante. Do you like him?" Bella sank down onto the floor next to her daughter. "Why are you asking?" "Because you smile different when he's here, like you're not sad anymore." Lily went back to coloring what appeared to be a house with a purple roof. "I like him. He's nice." "He is nice," Bella agreed, because what else could she say? "Is he going to be my new daddy?" The question hit Bella like a freight train. "No, baby. He's helping us, that's all." "Oh." Lily seemed to accept this. "Can he still come visit?" "Yeah, he can still visit." Lily smiled and kept coloring, and Bella sat there trying to figure out when her life had gotten so complicated. The job interview was Thursday at 10, just like Dante had said. Bella wore the one professional outfit she owned, the same navy suit from the courthouse, and tried not to throw up from nerves on the drive over. Dante drove in silence, which she appreciated, and waited in the car while she went inside. The property manager was a woman in her 50s named Diana Chen, no relation to either Rachel or Mrs. Chen, who looked Bella up and down once and said, "Dante says you're reliable and detail-oriented. Are you?" "Yes, Bella said, deciding that honesty was better than false modesty. "Can you handle difficult tenants? People who don't pay rent on time, who trash their apartments, who call at 2 in the morning because their toilet is running?" "I've handled worse." Diana's mouth quirked. "I bet you have. Dante mentioned you've had a rough few years." "That's one way to put it." "Well, I don't care about your personal life as long as it doesn't interfere with work. I need someone who can answer phones, manage the maintenance schedule, process applications, and deal with tenant complaints without losing their mind. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good. You start Monday. 8 to 4, weekdays only. Health insurance after 90 days. Pay is $15 an hour to start, $17 after 6 months if you're good at it." Diana stood, extended her hand. "Welcome aboard." Bella shook her hand, too shocked to do anything else. "That's it? Don't you want references or Dante's reference is good enough for me. He doesn't recommend people lightly." Diana walked her to the door. "See you Monday. Don't be late." Bella walked back to the car in a daze. She slid into the passenger seat and just sat there, staring at nothing. "Well?" Dante asked. "I got it. I start Monday." "Good. You already knew I'd get it." "Diana needed someone. You needed a job. It worked out." "You told her about Marcus, didn't you? About everything." "I told her you'd had some difficulties and needed a fresh start. She didn't ask for details." Dante started the car. "Does it matter?" "I don't know." Bella leaned her head against the window. "I feel like I should be more excited, like I should be celebrating or something, but I just feel tired." "That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for weeks. Now that things are settling, the crash hits." Dante pulled out of the parking lot. "It'll get better, not all at once, but gradually." "How do you know?" "Experience." They drove in silence for a while. Then Bella said, Thank you. For this. For all of it. You already thanked me. I'm thanking you again. Dante didn't respond, just kept driving. But Bella saw the corner of his mouth lift slightly, and she counted it as a victory. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm. Bella worked Monday through Friday, dropped Lily off at a preschool that Diana had recommended, picked her up at 3:30, and brought her back to the safe house. Dante called most evenings with updates about Marcus's case, which was proceeding exactly as Rachel had predicted. Marcus had taken the plea deal, 20 years with possibility of parole after 15. His parental rights were being terminated. The nightmare was officially over, except Bella kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, kept checking locks compulsively, kept waking up at 3 in the morning convinced she heard someone in the house, kept looking over her shoulder when she walked Lily to the car. You should talk to someone, Dante said one evening when he'd driven out to bring groceries. A therapist. Someone who specializes in trauma. I can't afford a therapist. I can. No. Bella's voice was sharper than she'd intended. You've done enough. You got me this job, this house, safety. I can't keep taking from you. It's not taking if I'm offering. It feels like taking. Dante set the grocery bags on the counter and turned to face her fully. Why? Because I don't know how to repay any of this. Because it feels like I'm accumulating a debt I'll never be able to settle. Bella gripped the edge of the counter. Because eventually you're going to realize I'm not worth all this effort, and I don't know what I'll do when that happens. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Dante's voice was firm. Bella, you're not a charity case. You're not someone I'm going to get bored with and abandon. I'm here because I choose to be, and I'll keep choosing to be here as long as you'll let me. Why? Bella demanded. Why do you care so much about someone you met a month ago? Because... Dante stopped, ran a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration she'd never seen from him before. Because you remind me that there are still people worth protecting. Because helping you makes me feel like I'm doing something that matters. Because when I see you building a life for yourself and Lily, it makes me think that maybe my mother's death wasn't completely pointless if it led me to be able to help people like you. The honesty of it left Bella speechless. Dante looked almost uncomfortable, like he'd said more than he'd intended. I'm sorry, Bella said finally, that you lost her, that you had to see what you saw. Me too. Dante's expression was unreadable. But I can't change it. All I can do is make sure other kids don't grow up the way I did. Other women don't die the way my mother did. Is that what this is? You saving everyone you couldn't save before? Maybe. Does that make it less real? Bella thought about it. No, I guess it doesn't. Then stop questioning why I'm here and just accept that I am. Dante pulled out his phone. I have the number of a therapist who works with domestic violence survivors. She's good. Takes insurance or works on a sliding scale if you don't have coverage yet. Will you at least call her? Bella took the number. Fine, I'll call. Good. Dante headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, you're worth the effort. I know you don't believe that yet, but you will. He left before she could argue. Bella called the therapist the next day. Her name was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and she had openings on Tuesday afternoons. Bella scheduled her first appointment and tried not to think too hard about what it meant to finally address the past 4 years instead of just running from them. The first session was harder than Bella expected. Dr. Mitchell was patient and kind, but she asked questions that Bella didn't want to answer, made her talk about things she'd buried deep. By the end of the hour, Bella felt raw and exhausted, and like she'd accomplished absolutely nothing. It's going to feel worse before it feels better, Dr. Mitchell said as Bella was leaving. That's normal. You've spent years surviving. Now you're learning to actually live. It's a different skill set. Bella went to her second appointment, then her third. Slowly, painfully, she started to untangle the knot of fear and shame and anger that Marcus had tied inside her. And slowly life started to feel less like waiting for disaster and more like something she was actively building. 3 months after the night Marcus broke down the door, Bella signed a lease on a small house in town. It wasn't much, 2 bedrooms, a tiny yard, outdated kitchen, but it was hers. She'd saved enough from her job for the deposit and first month's rent, had furniture donated from Diana and a few other people from work, and moved in on a Saturday with Dante and Vincent's help. This is really happening, Bella said, standing in her empty living room while Lily ran from room to room, delighted by the space. "This is really happening," Dante confirmed, setting down a box marked kitchen. "I have my own house." "You do?" "And a job, and Lily's in a good school, and Marcus is in prison for the next 15 years minimum." "All true." Bella turned to look at him. "When does it stop feeling surreal?" "Probably never completely, but it gets easier." Dante surveyed the house with the same assessing look he'd given the safe house. "You did this, not me, not Rachel. You. You helped. I gave you tools. You did the actual work." It was the closest thing to a compliment she'd ever heard from him, and it made something warm unfold in Bella's chest. "Thank you." "Stop thanking me." "Never." Dante's mouth quirked into something almost like a smile. "Stubborn." "You have no idea." They spent the rest of the day unpacking. Vincent ordered pizza for dinner, and they ate it sitting on the floor because Bella didn't have a table yet. Lily fell asleep on a pile of blankets, worn out from excitement, and Bella covered her with a throw she'd bought at a thrift store. "She's happy," Dante observed, looking at Lily's sleeping form. "She is." Finally, Bella sat next to him against the wall. "Do you think she'll remember any of this? The fear, Marcus, all of it?" "Some of it, probably. But mostly she'll remember what came after. The safety, the stability, the fact that her mother fought for her and won." Dante was quiet for a moment. "That's not nothing." "I hope you're right." "I usually am." Bella laughed, actually laughed, and realized it had been months since she'd done that. "You're also arrogant." "Confident. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to Lily's soft snores and the sound of Vincent cleaning up pizza boxes in the kitchen. The house smelled like fresh paint and cardboard and possibility. "Can I ask you something?" Bella said eventually. "You can ask. Doesn't mean I'll answer." "Fair enough." Bella picked at the hem of her shirt. "That night when Marcus broke in? When you fought him, were you scared?" Dante considered the question. "No." "Not even a little?" "Fear is a luxury I can't afford in situations like that. Fear makes you hesitate, and hesitation gets people killed." He turned to look at her. "But after? When you were safe and the police had him, and I was sitting in the ambulance getting checked out? Yeah, I was terrified." "Of what?" "That I'd been too slow, that he'd hurt you or Lily before I could stop him, that I'd fail the same way I failed my mother." Dante's voice was quiet, honest. "I don't let myself think about it during. But after, it hits." Bella reached out and took his hand. He looked surprised, but didn't pull away. "You didn't fail," she said. "You saved us, both of us." "I did what needed to be done." "No, you did more than that. You gave us a chance at a real life." Bella squeezed his hand. "And I know you don't like being thanked, but I'm going to say it anyway. Thank you for everything." Dante was quiet for a long moment, his hand warm in hers. Then he said, "You're welcome." They sat like that until Vincent came back and announced he needed to head out, breaking the moment. Dante stood, helped Bella to her feet, and headed for the door. "I'll check on you tomorrow," he said. "You don't have to." "I know." "Dante?" Bella followed him to the door. "When does this end?" "When does what end?" "You checking on me, making sure I'm okay, being part of my life." Bella's voice was steadier than she felt. "I'm safe now. Marcus is locked up. I have a job and a house and stability. You did what you set out to do, so when do you—" She couldn't quite finish the sentence. "When do I leave?" Dante finished for her. "Yeah." He looked at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. "Is that what you want? For me to leave?" "No," Bella admitted, "but I don't want you to stay out of obligation either. I'm not." Dante moved closer, close enough that Bella could see the faint scar above his eyebrow from where Marcus had hit him. "I stopped doing this out of obligation weeks ago. Now I'm doing it because I want to, because I care about you, because when I think about my life, you and Lily are part of it now, and I don't want that to change." Bella's breath caught. "Dante, you don't have to say anything. I know this is complicated. I know you're still healing. I know you probably don't need another man in your life making demands." Dante's voice was steady, certain. "But I needed you to know where I stand, So you're not wondering or questioning or thinking I'm going to disappear. Where do you stand? Here, with you, for as long as you'll have me. Bella couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at this man who'd appeared in her life like some kind of dangerous guardian angel and turned everything upside down. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. How to trust someone. How to believe that you're not going to turn into someone else when I let my guard down. I know, and I'm not asking you to trust me overnight. I'm just asking you to let me keep showing up. Let me prove that I mean what I say. Dante reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture surprisingly gentle. Can you do that? Bella thought about everything he'd done. The party where he'd noticed her fear. The safe house. The lawyer. The job. Fighting Marcus. Showing up every day with groceries or updates or just his presence. Never asking for anything in return except the chance to keep helping. Yes, she said. I can do that. Dante smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Good. He left then, and Bella closed the door behind him and leaned against it, her heart racing. This was real. This was happening. She was building a life, and Dante Moretti was apparently going to be part of it. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, for the first time in years, it felt like hope. 6 months later, Bella stood in the backyard of her little house and watched Lily play with the neighborhood kids. Her daughter was laughing, carefree, the kind of happy that came from feeling safe in your own skin. Bella had planted flowers along the fence line, had painted the trim on the house a cheerful yellow, had turned this place into something that felt like home. Dante appeared beside her, 2 glasses of lemonade in hand. He came by most weekends now, sometimes with work that needed doing, fixing the leaky faucet, replacing the wobbly step on the porch, but mostly just to be there. She's doing well, he observed, handing Bella one of the glasses. She is. Her teacher says she's thriving, making friends, doing well academically, no behavioral issues. Bella took a sip of lemonade. Dr. Mitchell says kids are resilient, that as long as Lily feels safe and loved now, the past won't define her. Smart woman, Dr. Mitchell. She also says I'm doing well, that I've made significant progress in processing the trauma and learning to trust again. Bella glanced at him. I told her about you. Yeah, what did you say? That there's this man who won't leave me alone no matter how many times I tell him I'm fine. Dante's mouth quirked. And what did she say to that? That I should probably stop telling you I'm fine and start admitting that I like having you around. Bella turned to face him fully. So I'm admitting it. I like having you around. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Lily play. The afternoon sun was warm, and somewhere down the street someone was grilling, the smell of charcoal and cooking meat drifting over the fence. I got a call from Rachel yesterday, Dante said eventually. Marcus's parental rights were officially terminated. It's done. Bella felt something loosen in her chest that she hadn't realized was still tight. So that's it? He has no legal claim to Lily anymore? None. Even if he gets out on parole in 15 years, he has no rights. He's legally not her father. What happens if he tries to contact us anyway? Then he violates the permanent protection order and goes back to prison. But Bella... Dante turned to look at her. He's not going to. I made sure of that. There was something in his tone that made Bella pause. What did you do? Let's just say I had a conversation with some people Marcus knew before he went in. Made sure he understands that if he ever comes near you or Lily again, there will be consequences that have nothing to do with the legal system. Dante's expression was neutral, but his eyes were hard. He got the message. Bella knew she should probably be concerned about what that meant. Should ask questions about exactly what kind of consequences Dante had arranged. But she found she didn't care. Marcus had terrorized her for years, had broken down her door and traumatized her daughter. If Dante wanted to make sure he never tried it again, who was she to complain? Thank you, she said instead. You're welcome. Lily came running over, face flushed from playing. Mama, can Emma come over for a play date tomorrow? Sure, baby. I'll call her mom. And can Dante stay for dinner, please? Bella looked at Dante, who was trying not to smile. I think we can arrange that, if Dante wants to. I want to, Dante said seriously to Lily. What are we having? Spaghetti, Lily announced, then ran back to her friends. Spaghetti it is, Bella said. I'll bring garlic bread. You don't have to... I know. I want to. Dante set his empty glass on the porch railing. Bella, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever think about the future? Like where you see yourself in a year, 5 years? Bella considered the question. A few months ago, she couldn't have imagined a future beyond the next day. Now? I think about Lily graduating high school, going to college, having a life that's normal and happy and boring in the best way. Bella leaned against the railing. I think about being the kind of mother she can count on, the kind who's present and stable and not looking over her shoulder all the time. That's good. That's all good. Dante was quiet for a moment. Do you ever think about yourself? What you want, not just for Lily. Sometimes. I think about maybe going back to school, getting a degree in something, building a real career instead of just a job. Bella smiled slightly. Diana's been hinting that she wants to retire in a few years and might sell me the property management company if I'm interested. Are you interested? Maybe. It's scary to think about, but also kind of exciting. Bella turned to look at him. Why are you asking? Because I want to make sure you're building a life for yourself, not just for Lily. You deserve to have dreams and goals and things that make you happy. I am happy. Right now, in this moment. Bella gestured to the yard, the house, Lily playing with her friends. This is more than I ever thought I'd have. It's enough. It's a start, Dante corrected. But don't settle for enough when you could have more. More like what? Like whatever you want. A career, education, travel, relationships. He paused. Love. Bella's heart skipped. Dante? I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just want you to know that you're allowed to want things, to build a life that's about more than just survival. I know that. I'm working on it. Good. Dante pushed off from the railing. I should go. Got some things to handle this afternoon, but I'll be back tomorrow for spaghetti and garlic bread. 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. He started to leave, then turned back. Bella? Yeah? You're doing really well. I know you probably don't hear that enough, but you are. You should be proud of yourself. Bella felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Stop thanking me. Never. Dante laughed and left. Bella watched him drive away, then went back to watching Lily play, and let herself feel the weight of what he'd said. She was doing well. She was building a life. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe she deserved it. 3 months later, on a cool October evening, Dante showed up at her door with flowers. What are these for? Bella asked, accepting the bouquet of sunflowers and daisies. Do I need a reason? You've never brought flowers before. First time for everything. Dante stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Lily asleep? Yeah, she had a field trip today, wore herself out. Bella found a vase and arranged the flowers. So what's the occasion? I wanted to talk to you about something. Bella's stomach dropped. This was it. This was where he told her he was leaving, or that he'd met someone else, or that he'd realized she was too damaged to deal with. Okay. Over the past 9 months, I've gotten to know you and Lily pretty well. I've seen you rebuild your life, watch you become stronger, watch you figure out who you are without fear controlling every decision. Dante moved closer, his expression serious. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. Bella's breath caught. What? I love you. I love the way you protect Lily fiercely, but also let her be a kid. I love how you've turned this house into a home with basically nothing. I love how stubborn you are about accepting help even when you need it. Dante reached out and took her hand. I love you, and I want to be part of your life. Not as the guy who saved you, but as someone who's building a life with you. Dante, Bella's voice failed. She'd known she had feelings for him, but hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way that terrified her. You don't have to say anything right now, Dante said gently. I know you're still healing. I know trust doesn't come easy after what you've been through. I just needed you to know how I feel. I'm scared, Bella admitted. I'm scared that if I let myself love you, something will happen. That you'll change or leave or turn into someone else. I can't promise nothing will ever happen. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that I'm not Marcus. I'm not your father or anyone else who hurt you. Dante squeezed her hand. I'm just me. And I choose you. Every day, I choose you. Bella looked at their joined hands, at this man who'd walked into her life at her lowest point and refused to leave, who'd given her safety and space and the tools to rebuild, who'd never asked for anything except the chance to keep showing up. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have for a while, but I was too afraid to admit it." Dante smiled, and it was the most genuine expression she'd ever seen on his face. "Yeah?" "Yeah." Bella moved closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "But I need you to know that I'm still a mess sometimes. I still have nightmares. I still check locks compulsively. I'm still learning how to be a person instead of just a survivor." "I know. And I'm here for all of it. The mess, the nightmares, the healing, all of it." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Bella stood on her toes and kissed him. It was tentative at first, uncertain, but Dante wrapped his arms around her and deepened the kiss, and it felt like coming home, like safety and promise, and the beginning of something real. When they finally pulled apart, Bella was crying and laughing at the same time. "I can't believe this is my life," she said. 9 months ago I was hiding at a party, terrified Marcus would find me. Now I have a house and a job and a daughter who's thriving and a man who loves me. Believe it, you earned every bit of it." "We earned it," Bella corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Maybe, but you did the hard part. I just made sure you had the space to do it." They spent the rest of the evening on the couch, talking about the future in concrete terms instead of vague possibilities. Dante wanted to introduce her to his sister Maria, who he'd mentioned exactly once before tonight. Bella wanted him to meet some of her coworkers, the friends she'd started making now that she wasn't constantly looking over her shoulder. They talked about what it would look like for him to be more present in Lily's life, how to navigate dating as a single mother with a traumatic past. They didn't have all the answers, but they had a starting point. And for the first time in her entire adult life, Bella felt like she was building something real. Not just surviving, but actually living. The next morning, Lily came into the kitchen while Bella was making breakfast and announced, "Dante's car is outside." "He stayed over," Bella said carefully, watching her daughter's reaction. "Did he sleep in your room?" "He slept on the couch." "Why?" "Because we're dating now, like grown-ups do when they like each other." Lily considered this with the gravity of a 5-year-old. "Does that mean he's going to be my dad? Not your dad because you already don't have one of those and that's okay, but maybe something like a dad, someone who cares about you and wants to be part of your life." Bella knelt down to Lily's level. "How would you feel about that?" "I like Dante. He's nice and he makes you smile." Lily threw her arms around Bella's neck. "Can he stay for pancakes?" "I think he'd like that." Dante did stay for pancakes, and for dinner that night, and for breakfast the next morning when he showed up with bagels and coffee. Slowly, carefully, he became part of their routine, part of their family. 2 years after the night Marcus broke down the door, Dante asked Bella to marry him. They were at the park, watching Lily play on the swings. It was spring, and everything was blooming, and life felt almost absurdly normal. "I've been thinking," Dante said, "about the future." "Dangerous pastime," Bella teased. "I want to spend mine with you. Officially, legally, all of it." Dante pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a simple gold band with a single diamond. "Marry me." It wasn't phrased as a question, which was so typically Dante that Bella laughed even as tears started streaming down her face. "That's not very romantic," she managed. "Romance isn't really my thing, but commitment is, and I'm committed to you and Lily for the rest of my life." Dante's voice was steady, certain. "So marry me." Bella looked at the ring, then at Lily on the swings, then at this man who'd given her back her life. She thought about everything they'd been through, everything they'd built, everything they still had ahead of them. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll marry you." Dante slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, right there in the park with Lily shouting, "Ew, gross!" from the swings and laughing anyway. They got married 6 months later in Bella's backyard, with Lily as the flower girl and Mrs. Chen crying in the front row. Vincent was Dante's best man, and Rachel officiated, because of course she did. Diana brought half the town as guests, and the property management company Bella now co-owned gave her a week off for a honeymoon. It was small and simple and perfect. On their wedding night, after Lily had been put to bed at Mrs. Chen's house and the guests had left, and it was just the two of them, Dante pulled Bella close and said, "I'm proud of you, of us, of everything we've built." "Me too," Bella whispered. "I never thought I'd have this. A real marriage, a real partner, someone who sees me as more than just a victim or a project. You're so much more than that. You're the strongest person I know." Dante kissed her forehead. "And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget it." Bella kissed him back and let herself believe it. Not because she was naive or because she thought life would be perfect from here on out, but because she'd learned that strength wasn't about being invincible. It was about getting back up after being knocked down, about building something real from the wreckage of what came before. She'd survived Marcus. She'd rebuilt her life. She'd learned to trust again, to love again, to believe in the possibility of happiness. And now she was married to a man who'd proven every day that love didn't have to come with conditions or control. That protection could be offered without possession. That partnership meant standing beside someone, not over them. Years later, when Lily was in high school and applying to colleges, she asked Bella about her childhood, about her father, about the parts of her history that Bella had always tried to shield her from. So Bella told her the truth. Not the sanitized version, not the story that made it easier to swallow, but the real one. About Marcus and the abuse and the fear and the night he broke down their door. About Dante showing up at a party and changing everything. About the long, hard road from survival to actually living. "How did you do it?" Lily asked. "How did you keep going when everything was so bad?" "Because of you," Bella said honestly. "Because I had to. Because giving up wasn't an option as long as you needed me." "But what about after? When Marcus was locked up and we were safe? What kept you going then?" Bella thought about it. "Hope, I guess. The belief that life could be more than just surviving. That I deserved happiness and safety and love." She smiled at her daughter. "And Dante. He showed me what a real partnership looks like. What it means to be loved without conditions." Lily hugged her tight. "I'm glad you found him. I'm glad you didn't give up." "Me too, baby. Me too." That night, Bella lay in bed next to Dante and thought about everything that had led them here. The fear, the pain, the slow rebuilding, the choice to trust again, to love again, to believe in the possibility of something better. Life wasn't perfect. She still had nightmares sometimes, still tensed when someone raised their voice, still carried the scars of everything Marcus had put her through. But she also had this: a home filled with love instead of fear, a daughter who was confident and happy, a husband who chose her every single day, and that, Bella had learned, was what healing looked like. Not the absence of scars, but the presence of joy. Not forgetting the past, but refusing to let it define the future. She'd been broken. She'd been terrified. She'd been convinced she'd never escape. But she had. And in the process, she'd learned that sometimes the most dangerous choice you can make is trusting someone new. And sometimes it's the only choice that can save you. Dante stirred beside her. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. Nothing." Bella turned to face him. "How lucky I am." "We're lucky," Dante corrected. "Both of us." "Yeah," Bella agreed and meant it. "We really are." She closed her eyes and let herself drift off to sleep, safe and loved and finally truly free.